then. Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we'll go from the Mojo-verse to Earth 616 to the Negative Zone to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. My name is the Uncanny Chris.
I am the podcaster of Mischief Chasnell.
I am adjectiveless Brent.
Alliance assemble.
Assemble. You even warned him, Chris. You said you better have one ready. And look, the disrespect he had. He said, no, I'm not doing it.
No, that fits. It's not your standard adjectives. He just said adjectiveless. You know,
references Spider-Man, X-Men, all kinds of titles.
That's true, but he's being cheeky with it. It's a cheeky adjective.
Oh, come on. It's basically he's calling back to the Amazing Bagman, you know?
There you go.
Well, you guys are in education. It's like if you tell a student that's kind of like, I don't know if I'm like, maybe he's not the greatest student. And you're like, this has to be 500 words. And then they do this is a very, 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 very important day in history. Like, that's what he did to us. Like, he did the 500 words, but he slapped us in the face while doing it. But
he takes, someone peed in his Cheerios tonight. He's taking way too much offense.
I'm fired up. You know, I'm doing good. I survived a wrestling match last week, so I'm pretty happy. I have some bruises, but you know, I'm doing good. Chris, how about you?
I'm doing great. Like I said, I've got a nice little package of some new omnibuses to tear open tomorrow, including one Spider-Man that's in there. So I'm quite excited. And it was a good day of work. So
how about you, Brent?
I can't complain. You know, I left work on time today. I only worked 8 hours, so it's been a long time since I did that. So I got home and my family is all like, "What are you doing here already?"
Who is this man walking in at this hour?
Call the police. So we got lots of news to talk about today or tonight, whenever you listen to this. You know, we trust you're enjoying it. We hope you're doing well. So right now, I'm just going to give some quick plugs for the network, and then we're off to the races. Monday is World Finest True Believer. Chris, you had a retro this week. What was popping off there?
Yeah, we were looking at All-Star Superman with Ty, who I'm actually recording with on Thursday for he's coming on back on to do a new obviously a new book that'll be released in October. But yeah, All-Star Superman, it was a really great book, one of my favorites. I think definitely one of my top 5 Superman stories of all time.
Nice. And then Tuesday we have DC Alliance. They covered, spare microphone. I literally just punched it. I'm sorry. Tuesday we have DC Alliance. They covered DC Fandom Day 2, which was good for me because I was moving a bunch of stuff, so I didn't get to really partake in much of it. So they got good coverage there. And then obviously the Momoa stuff was kind of sparking off last night, so they did a good deep dive on that. Wednesdays is us, Marvel Alliance, every Wednesday. Thursday is Katie's week or Katie's day. It's Star Wars Alliance. She did record it early if you watched on YouTube, because now that's why I watch our Twitter feed. We go live and record some of these early, and then you can get them the audio feed. But it's Marvel Alliance. They talked a whole bunch of Star Wars rumors and reviewed the Thrawn book. And then Friday Superhero Discussions. They only have a few episodes left of Superman animated series, so jump on that if you want to. And then I think soon they're going to be putting out a poll of what to do next. And then Saturday and Sunday are Weird Science bringing you the Marvel and DC Comics roundup. And then Saturday is Super Civil Servants podcast, which I'm not sure, Chris, because I know it's earlier in the week. Do we have any idea what you guys are talking about yet?
No.
Okay.
The boys. Yeah, the boys.
They always decide that day. Come on.
But you know, it's gonna be a wild good time. I was on there last week with Taylor. It was a rowdy time. We played a trivia game. Chris, somehow you guys beat me by 2 points. I was pretty upset with that, but I put all the blame.
I think it was 3 actually. It was 36-39. If we're gonna be honest about it.
I put all the blame on Sarah and Katie. So, no, of course not. I just have not watched Back to the Future enough. So that's everything we got going on. You can check our Patreon. We got stuff going on there. And like I said, check our Twitter feeds, because lately we've been doing live right now. Star Wars Alliance, DC Alliance, Marvel Alliance will be going live. Just look for that when we tweet out a link and you'll know. So anything else, Chris, that I've missed?
No, it's nice having 7 days of the week, you know. You get everything you want possibly at that point.
For the network, I just thought you meant in your life, and I was like, "What?
Oh no,
what is that supposed to mean?"
It's a deep existential meaning at that point.
Yeah, life's short, guys. It's good to have 7 days a week, but yeah,
I guess.
But yeah, it's
something's in the air tonight. Everyone, we're all a little off, but you know what, Chris, get us back on track.
I will try. But yeah, we started when I sent you the rundown this weekend. We had about 4 or 5 things, and we were saying, maybe put some stuff out to the listeners, maybe choose a different topic. Well, the past 48 hours, Marvel's had a lot of news drop. But I think what we're going to start with tonight was probably the biggest one that could be basically game changing for the foreseeable future with Marvel. And that would be coming from Deadline. Jonathan Majors joins the MCU and lands a major role in Ant-Man. So this broke, I believe, yesterday. And for those that don't know, Jonathan Majors, he is the star, one of the probably the lead, if we would call it, of Lovecraft Country. He is joining Ant-Man 3. The rumor is that he is going to be playing the supervillain Kang the Conqueror. And Kang has a very interesting history, and we'll probably go into that in a little bit here. But he's had besides having Lovecraft Country, he's been in Da 5 Bloods on Netflix. He was in a 2019 film, The Last Black Man in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
He is starring in another Netflix show, The Harder They Fall, where he plays the outlaw Nat Love and is currently in production. And he was also tapped to star in Black Label Media's Devotion. So he is a rising star. I actually had been meaning to watch Lovecraft Country, and I finally started last night. That was the plan anyways before. It is a weird show, but he is so good in it in just watching 2 episodes. So I'm very excited about his casting.
I am. Travis Hines in the chat over here giving me crap. I mentioned the Patreon just because you show up a little late, doesn't mean I didn't mention it. But check out the Patreon. $1 tier support us, $5 get everything ad free, exclusive early. This is I was shocked, honestly, for not just I think Brent had the best reaction as far as not that it was just like in our group chat that it's Kang, but in Ant-Man 3 is what threw me really off guard because I was not expecting this at all. And what I tweeted out was, to me, this just shows that Ant-Man 3, of course, I'm not expecting it to get darkly serious and turn into like the Godfather, but I just think this means that the stakes are about to be raised for these characters quite a bit. You'll have that humor tone, you'll have that family vibe, but I think not only for the MCU does this mean a lot, I think this means a lot for those characters, and I got more to say on it, but I want to get Brent's initial thoughts first.
At first I was really surprised. I'm like, Ant-Man of all things, like Kang he's not a little villain. Like he's one of the big ones. And I was really at first surprised about it being Ant-Man. It's like, Ant-Man, seriously? One, there's already going to be an Ant-Man trilogy. That alone is shocking.
Yeah.
And
yes.
Two, it's like, look at the villains they've had. They haven't gone that big, but the director did talk about recently wanting to, go with a little bit different visual element to go on a bigger scale. And the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, it actually makes sense, because after Endgame, time travel is very tied to Ant-Man via the quantum realm. Kang and time travel. I fully expected Kang to show up. Let me be clear. I fully expected him to, just not in Ant-Man. I thought it was going to be in the Loki TV show, which still may happen. You never know, but probably not, considering that production started there. That's just where I thought. So I was really not surprised to hear Kang's coming, surprised at the location.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Just like you said, he's such a heavy hitter it elevates Ant-Man, but that's definitely, and it's going to bring up one of our listener questions at this point, changing what I thought would be our big bad for the phases at that point. Because like you said, to make him a one-off villain just for Ant-Man, like a lot of times, a lot of these movies have a bad habit of doing it, just either killing off or moving on from another villain. This one, that would be kind of a disservice to what Kang represents, particularly like with Endgame being that time travel so huge. We got Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. We've got a lot of stuff dealing with time travel. And I think Kang is the perfect villain for this, because it reminds me of what Tony said in Endgame when you mess with time, it tends to mess back. And
Last words to Captain America too.
Yeah.
So yeah, So this is where I'm wondering, as far as I was with Brent, because we had heard like there's speculation, but also rumors that Kang might be involved. I still wonder if there's even going to be like an end credits like stinger, like that's the Loki how we get there. I could see that, because someone did bring up the point of, if this is 2022, this would be filming 2021 next year. If that everything goes well, that's still a long ways away. I know that they do cast long far out, but look at Miss Marvel and She-Hulk that are about to go in production within 6 months. They don't even have their leads announced, right? So I do think there is a chance that whether it's Loki or somewhere else, he will appear first. And I do agree with you, Chris, that if he is used as just a one-time villain, that would be a massive mistake. I said this before. I think he's going to get the Loki phase 1 treatment, where you had Loki and Thor, and then he moved over to Avengers. I think he will still be a bigger villain as far as spread out more throughout the phase, but I think that he is, like you asked, I think it was Clayton that tweeted out, I was like, does that change our mind? And we're going to get to that in Fact or Fiction, but I always worried that was going to be Doom. Not worried, because Avengers, that's still a big deal if you're a villain, right? But I still want him to be that main guy. So this does give me more like kind of hope in that realm, that he is going to be one of those maybe Thanos long-term ones. And this guy could be, he could be larger than Loki was, but kind of that Loki, he's the villain of phase 5, phase 6. And I think in phase 5, we'll get Avengers film, and it will be Kang taking on the unfortunately the Avengers that have to deal with the consequences of what the original Avengers pulled off. You know, like Tony's not dealing with it, Black Widow's not, Steve's not, but then the people left holding the bag are all the other ones. I guess Thor's still there, but yeah.
Kind of going into that, just like giving some of our listeners who don't know who Kang is at that point, he's probably he's got a very complicated history, and it's always a definition of which Kang we talking about. But he first appeared in Fantastic Four in Volume 1, number 19. He was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Lots of different versions of it, but it's commonly accepted that each alternate Kang that's interacted with the Earth 616 is a divergence from the original Kang from 63011, and his name is Nathaniel Richards from the 31st century. He is a possible descendant of Reed Richards, and discovers time travel technology created by Dr. Doom, travels back in time to go to Egypt and becomes a pharaoh, Pharaoh Rama-Tut, and plans to claim on Saba Nur, who is the mutant that is destined to become Apocalypse, as his heir. Things happen. He's defeated by a time-displaced Fantastic Four, and he travels forward to go to the 20th century, where he meets Dr. Doom, gets some armor, and even starts thinking that he's a descendant of Dr. Doom. So that's where I get his lineage is a little bit muddled. And he tries to go back just a little, and he tries to go back to the 31st century, but overshoots it by 1,000 years and ends up on a war-torn Earth, where he ends up conquering it, and hence takes on the name Kang the Conqueror. So, but has popped up over and over again. I know Brent, I know I was really a fan of this run, but I know you know it as well with the Young Avengers, his ties to that, which brings up the the Ant-Man connection. I'm pretty sure you have a good handle on that. Do you mind talking about that?
No, so I've been convinced for quite a long time that the MCU is setting up the Young Avengers. If you force me to pick, I think they're going to brand it as Champions. I don't think they're going to brand it as Young Avengers, but I think it is effectively going to be the Young Avengers. And if you really look at it, they're really setting up some of these characters. So if you look at the Young Avengers, they have a character named Iron Lad, right? He looks like a little tiny Iron Man, an Iron Boy, Iron Junior, whatever you want to call him. That's what he looks like. So his name is Iron Lad, but it turns out he is Kang the Conqueror as a kid, before he becomes King, before he grows up, and that's who he becomes. So he is Iron Lad. Okay, so if you have him, that's just one character. The Young Avengers has several other characters. Wiccan and Speed are two members of the Young Avengers. They are the children of Wanda and Vision. Okay, Wiccan has mystical powers. Speed has speedster powers. He's basically like a little Quicksilver. So you've got both of those characters, easy to come about through the WandaVision show. we know Wanda's pregnant in one of those alternate realities or in her brain or whatever that she's got going on based on the Super Bowl trailer. And then maybe they're going to mix it up though. Maybe this Iron Lad won't be Kang. I could see them. If you haven't read the Tom King Vision run, I would highly recommend it. In that he basically creates a couple android children. Maybe they kind of adapt one of those, and one of those children's becomes Iron Lad. Kind of like how Jarvis became Vision and then Vision begets Iron Lad. I can kind of see it going that direction as well. Isaiah Bradley is rumored for Falcon and Winter Soldier. He was the Black Captain America whose grandson became Patriot. Who else am I missing? Hulkling. He's Skrull and Kree. He's a mix of the two of them. I don't remember which side is which side is his dad on, which side is his mom on. But regardless, he's not actually a Hulk. He's just a shapeshifter. And that's the method he took. And then, of course, we've got Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, right? We know for a fact she's coming. She's coming to the Hawkeye TV show. And then technically there is one other member who I almost always forget when I think about this because she didn't join the Young Avengers for quite a while. Stature, Cassie Lang, who is in Ant-Man and the Wasp or whatever they're going to call the next one.
And has now been effectively aged up thanks to Endgame.
Right. So I really feel like they are setting this up. Are they going to have this be like a Defenders Netflix type thing, set most of it up on TV and have the crossover on TV, have it over in the movies? I don't know there. I could be convinced either direction on that. But I really feel like they're putting an awful lot of pieces in play to do this if they want to go that route.
And he's a heck of a villain too. He's got no superhuman abilities, but he's a genius. He's obviously a historical scholar. He's armed with all this extra 40th, 30th century technology. Apparently his suit gives him a 30-day supply of air and food. He's capable of controlling other forms of technology. His time ship gives him access to basically any kind of technology at that point. So, I mean, he is a formidable foe.
Oh, yeah. He's stacked, but also just like what you guys just talked about with potential champions. You talked about ties to Apocalypse, Doctor Doom, Fantastic Four, Reed Richards. There's just so many doors that one, obviously, I don't think they're going to take them all, but this could set them up multiple ways, not just one. And that's the thing. Like I'm with Brent that all these characters coming up there, whatever they have planned, who or whenever they have it planned, I don't think it's just a coincidence that these characters are popping up at the same time. I think we will hear more. Obviously, that's a bit more in Phase 5. I am interested to see if it does go to Disney Plus or whatnot, because I feel like a big team up, like you want it to feel quite big, but again, we haven't. That's why I wish we have seen some of these Disney Marvel shows, right? I want to see the scale of what they are. I know Mackie says like, oh, it's shooting like a movie, but I want to see that before I can fully believe him on that, right? So I want to see the scale. I want to see, does it really feel like a movie, and can it garner that excitement and not feel like a step down? I don't want that to be the fact. I am with Brent too, that it's going to be champions. I don't think they'll ever do a Young Avengers, New Avengers. I just think that it just feels gimmicky, and I think for mainstream
branding, it's a new brand they can do.
Yeah, I think for mainstream people that don't read comics, the second they see New Avengers, they go, "Oh, like that's kind of like that's just like the new the new cola." It's just it feels cheap in my opinion. So I've never liked that. Or like maybe Dark Avengers you could get away with because that's a tad different. But even then, I go, no, I feel like there's something else. I wanted to ask in Ant-Man 3, and this is the other thing. I think maybe Chris said this if he did. And this came from Justin Kroll, so it's like top notch, like this is very likely happening. So, and Boris Kit backed him up, all these people. Do you think his role in Ant-Man 3 will be the main villain, or will it be a Thanos in Guardians type of style? Like what we think, because we had heard rumors that M.O.D.O.K was going to be in here. Some kind of like B-tier scooper said he was in the original script. They don't know if he still is. I could see him being like the way Ronan was, as far as you have M.O.D.O.K in the Ronan role and then Kang and the Thanos role. Not the same dynamics, but just kind of that sharing of screen time sort of way. So what do you guys think about his size in Ant-Man 3? No pun intended.
I think that because they said like, the headline lands major role, and considering how fast his star has risen and how many different projects he's been in, I think he is going to be the main villain. And like we said before, it's the quantum verse that brings this into play, because I like thinking about the idea of like the one timeline they massively screwed up was Avengers 1.
Yeah.
They lost the
Tesseract.
Tesseract, yeah. And so Loki's out there. Captain America has basically, they think he's now part, when he said Hail Hydra, they've got a whole thing about that, again. So that is
Cap.
Yeah, that is an offshoot now that could possibly lead towards a Kang creation at that point. And, he could be seeking kind of revenge at that point.
Mm-hmm. I always do say, though, that one time that really got it good was the Guardians timeline, because there's no Thanos in there anymore, right? Remember? They have it great right now. Like, no Thanos, no Snap. Like, obviously something is obviously going to go wrong in a timeline, but you know what? So one timeline they really screwed up, but one timeline they made maybe really good, and Tony's still alive and Widow's still alive. Like, it all worked out,
I had to look up what the episodes are called, but if you haven't seen Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, there's a couple really good King episodes in there.
Yeah.
The Man Who Stole Tomorrow and Kang the Conquer. That's basically a two-parter. So they're on Disney Plus. Definitely, it gives you a real good and under an hour, because it's just two shows, overview on who the Kang character is.
Hey Brent, if they wanted to find reviews of those episodes, where would they go?
Probably Marvel Squadcast, but it is on a little hiatus right now. But there are episodes talking about those specific ones on Marvel Squadcast.
They can go back, because there's so many people that have not watched that, and I say that as far as like the new era of superhero animation, that is my top tier. I don't put it as up there with X-Men and Batman and everything like that, but it's like right below them. It's fantastic storytelling all the way around.
It hangs with them. Like, you've got the four majors from the 90s, Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, and X-Men. If this Avengers had come out then, instead of that other Avengers show that came out then, this would hang with them in history.
Yeah. And then the other note I wanted to bring up too, because you mentioned this, Chris, in the rundown, that this created another conversation about Reed Richards, because obviously if this happens to be true and everything like that, Kang is being played by a person of color. He's being played by a black man. And if he's the descendant of Reed Richards, I understand why people were throwing this theory out. I thought it was interesting. I think with it being Kang, it's also over, and plus it's like so many lineages down. I don't think that's a given, but I do think that people are right to bring up that it is in play that we may see a black Reed Richards. And I think I'm always the same as that, where if it doesn't affect the character, like his race doesn't really matter to Reed Richards. It's more about his brains and his relationship with his other members. I could see it happening down the line, because I do think if you look at Avengers, for a long time you had Black Panther, but the main six Avengers were a bunch of white and straight people, not much representation there, right? And if Fantastic Four and X-Men were these big gargantuan, like the leads again, it is, if they didn't change anything, a lot of characters that are similar. So I could see them race swapping one for that reason. But even then, I think just for actors wise, I know some people were bummed about maybe Krasinski not doing it, but I think Krasinski will end up in a comic book role one day. It might not be Reed, but I did find those theories interesting. And I think it's definitely in play. I always thought it would be Xavier and Magneto that was getting the race swap, which still could happen.
I was about to say, yeah.
Yeah, but maybe it's Reed as well, or Reed separately. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's very few characters you really can't race swap.
Mm-hmm.
And the Fantastic Four, all of them, it doesn't matter. Absolutely does not matter. Mm-hmm. So by all means, if they want to cast a person of color to play Reed Richards, great, go for it. The only qualification is he's got to be able to talk in all those big words. He's got to be able to say all these, comic book science sentences and stuff. Like, that's it. If he can pull that dialogue off, he's good for the part.
Mm-hmm. So, and I guess the other thing, do you guys think he is, because we talked about this a little bit with Kang, do you think he is the next Avengers villain and it's kind of like an Ultron Loki, or do you think this is setting up for a bigger event down the line? Because obviously we've heard rumblings that Captain Marvel is some sort of mini event, but that sounds maybe it's more to do with the Skrulls, but he's had a history with kind of all those characters, so maybe he's also included that. So do you feel this is him leading to be, like I said, a Loki Ultron, or him to be an actual Thanos? Because I feel like that's kind of the debate right now. And I agree. If they were just to if he's a one and done Ant-Man, I trust them not to do that. I trust that entire team. But if that were to happen, I think there'd be a lot of fanboys and fangirls sitting there disappointed at the end of that movie if just Scott Lang takes him out and it's over for Kang,
That might be the biggest disappointment I've ever had. Well, oh my gosh, no, not a one-off, please. Not a one-off.
Yeah, no. Character. I mean, that's the thing I said earlier, is that the thing about Kang is that he's pretty much almost immortal because there's so many different divergence from him that he's kind of ensured himself to be immortal. But I could see our next villain being not just one. If he's tied to Doctor Doom and he's got history with Doctor Doom, I'll still say that I think Doctor Doom's going to be a bigger part than just a Fantastic Four villain. And I could see kind of those two having an interesting dynamic and taking on. I mean, that would be a formidable team at that point.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with their history, if they keep it, because again, we're just going on the idea of what the history is. They could totally go off in a different branch, but I don't think they're going to go way out of left field because they'll do winks and nods to things. I would love it, like you said, if it's our connection to the Fantastic Four, if they're going to go that route, but they don't have to.
Even if it was him and Victor at first, like he doesn't have to be Doom yet, and he can just be kind of like the anti-Tony, right? Like smart guy, wealthy. Well, of course he's wealthy.
Hey, there we go. We've got another villain created by Tony Stark.
Well, no, I don't want to go to that route, but
the time travel. Tony invented time travel with this, so.
Oh yeah,
time travel.
He did.
I love how annoyed people get at the Tony Stark thing.
Nathan loves it.
But I think it's hilarious how much that bothers people. To me, if we had to compare him, I would say Kang is to Loki as Doom will be to Thanos. But I don't know if we necessarily even. To me, it feels too early to be looking for that. I understand why people are, but like if you think about where we were at this point at the start of Phase 1, we were waiting on the first Iron Man to come out. It's like it was so long before you were 5 movies before you even got a glimpse of Thanos. You were 3-4 movies before you got to Thor, or before you got to Loki and Thor. I feel like there's time. There's time. Let's see where it shakes out. And while we don't know where they're going yet, Feige has said they know where the plan is. I'm sure Kang is not going to be a one-off. Like you were saying, Chris, he's basically immortal. So even if Ant-Man were to somehow defeat him and kill him, he's just going to show back up again. They could do what happened with Loki and basically seemingly kill him in the first appearance, but then in the credits scene let nah, he's still around. He's not actually gone, and you're not done with him yet either. I think it's going to be something like that. But if I really had to pick long-term and end of a Phase 6 type character, like to be the big bad, I think it's going to be Doom, and Kang the Conqueror is going to be somewhere around there.
I think that's 2 things I wanted to bring up as far as with Ant-Man and the villains. I'm happy for them to get someone meaty because I liked Ghost enough in the Ant-Man 2, but I think there could have been more done with her. And I won't use the word hate, but I extremely disliked Yellow Jacket, and I just thought that was a villain right from a 90s comic book TV show, or so. It was not good stuff. So I'm happy, one, that I think they'll have a bit more to chew on, but then 2, my prediction, I forgot to bring this up in the Loki portion. The reason I think he will have some sort of role in Loki is because I think Loki is going to work his way back to the main timeline somehow, one way or another. And I think this could be the way, as far as we know, we don't know he's in Doctor Strange, but he has a tie to Doctor Strange, right? That film. So I think this could be a way that maybe he's the way Mark Ruffalo was the Thanos is coming to Doctor Strange. He might be that gateway for some characters to go, hey, you have someone heading your way. Like maybe he's in a time area and Kang just wipes it completely out. He conquers it, but Loki's the last one standing, and he can come and be like, he's coming your way. And I also think there's some fun as far as Thor will be dealing with a Loki that I don't necessarily want evil again, but the idea of they don't have that knowledge of what happened to one another. It's risky because I think that's what's going to happen with Gamora and Star-Lord, right? So you don't want to do the same thing, but we know Loki has ties to Doctor Strange. I think he could be used again in the future main timeline. I'm still pulling for Kid Loki one day, but even then, who knows? And I want to bring up Travis Hines. He said maybe Kane is pissed because the Avengers changing timeline post-snap changed everything in the future, causes the Galactus to show up, perhaps, ? And has something big. It has to be something big to get Kang to time travel. And I agree. Yes, Travis, Boyd Crowder was the villain in Ant-Man 2. He's a great villain from Justified. But I do think it is going to be something big. And I think this is one of the best villain things, the same way Thanos had, and any of their villains, bar a Carnage or Joker, that are just so crazy nuts, people love them, is they need some motivation. And if some time travel kind of screwed over Kang, that's perfect motivation to be like, we were cheering for our heroes, they had to go time travel, but really they were being selfish they lost that battle. I know it was because these magical stones, but they did go back and change a lot of things, and this could be, like we talked about, time messes back, and that's exactly what it is.
Well, it's also, I want to bring up too, like this is an incredibly early casting announcement. Ant-Man 3 is not slated to release until 2022. You know, like you said, She-Hulk we're getting some news with She-Hulk, but no casting yet. That's starting to film pretty early next year.
February,
talking. Yeah. So we have no casting with that, but we have a casting for our villain of Ant-Man 3. There's something more to that than announcing this casting. There again, I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm just saying there's got to be a reason, and to your point, this may be possibly tied to the Loki series as a result.
You know, you said something interesting about Loki and comparing Loki and Thor to Gamora and Star-Lord. And I think they're actually very different situations, because Gamora was on the path to being a hero already. She was already on that path. So where she was pulled out of the time stream, she's on that path. Loki at this point, this is a Loki who has not seen the death of his mother. So Loki who has not gone through all those things, and that was really a catalyst turning point for him, and he's not going to have experienced that. And he's also going to probably grasp the concept of the multiverse, and it wouldn't surprise me if he's like, well, that's not my mom, it's not my mother who died. And so I don't know, I really feel like if we do, I would not be upset at all if this Loki came back around to meet up with Thor. No, I don't necessarily want it in Thor Love and Thunder, maybe as like a credit or something, but it's like, no, let's have a Thor movie that's moved away from Loki. But I would like to see the two of them interact. You basically see a Thor as we know him today interacting with a Loki from the end of the first Avengers movie.
I do think that Loki as an end credit for Thor Love and Thunder could be in play, because again, it's just, you know, directors talking and whatnot. But when COVID first started, Taika did a watch along for Thor Ragnarok, and he answered a lot of stuff like, no, Silver Surfer's not my movie. No, he shut a lot of stuff down. But when someone asked about Loki, he specifically said no comment. And to me, when someone says no comment, he could not answer that tweet. He didn't need to say anything. And I feel like, again, it could just be an end credit. My theory for a while was working that it was going to be Kid Loki, because I thought, what a good end cap to somehow get, let's say, Jane and Thor are finally happy together, and then on their doorstep shows up this Kid Loki, and like, man, what hijinks could ensue there. Taika's worked with children before, but maybe it is just Loki showing up again. It's, for me, WandaVision, Doctor Strange, and that's the fun thing, are this piece that we just don't know how they all fit with Loki. We still are waiting to hear who Evan Peters is playing. Like, there's so much which there should be mystery around all these things, but that's the thing where it's like, oh, Champions makes sense, this makes sense, but those three together are like, what's going on here? And that's why we'll really want to, see WandaVision at least, but we're gonna wait a little longer.
Just a bit.
Yeah.
Just a bit.
Yeah.
All right. Before you head to some news, you want to take us to our first ad break?
Yeah, so if you're watching on YouTube or live in the future, it'll just be us sitting here for 5 seconds, so exciting for you. But on the replay, you'll never know what happened. But right now, we're going to throw some ads, and Geek Ultimate Alliance, this supports us. This grows the channel. As you've seen, some new shows have joined the network. Maybe some are more joining next month. And that's all because of you guys and the support you give us. And that's what these are. We always say before, in the future, I'll just say, hey, these ads are coming sometime. They're a little bit louder. I listened to DCA, and they were completely fine. And then last week, they were, blew the eardrums up. But I also think I have like these awful headphones that, like, my Best Buy is a 5-minute bike ride away, but I'm just like, no, I'm lazy, I'm not going to go today. Yeah, so but yeah, you're going to hear some ads starting right now. And we're back. Chris, what do you want to start with? I have one I want to go to, but I'll let you pick.
Oh, you're gonna let me pick? Oh, gee, I write this lovely rundown, and you just want to go jumping all over the place.
Because there's one in particular I really want to get to, but dealer's choice.
Well, it's not the one I want to get to. I'm saving that towards the end at that point. I'm going to start with the little one and get it out of the way right now. Apparently M.O.D.O.K, the TV show, is still a thing.
Really?
Yes, apparently it's still a thing. It did not get killed off when Feige took all control back. It was announced on their the official M.O.D.O.K Twitter, which that is also a thing. Has they shared a logo and confirmed it with that they are going to be a presence at New York Comic-Con in a little bit.
I had no idea. I thought the show was killed. I thought it was that's ridiculous. But you could make an argument, because there's those rumors with Ant-Man. M.O.D.O.K's popped up other places recently. I don't know how spoiler I want to get in those, but other Avengers related things M.O.D.O.K is a part of. Maybe they are making a push for him. Maybe they really are going to be elevating his character, and they're like, okay, we're going to put him over here and get some of this community to know who he is, get some of that community to know who he is before we really put him on the big stage in the movies. I don't know. This actually, seeing that this animated show is still happening makes me think we are more likely to see him sooner than later in the movies.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's an animated show. M.O.D.O.K is going to be voiced by the great Patton Oswalt, and so that's gonna be interesting within itself. I know last week, I think we had. I thought this was the Kevin Smith one instead, as you corrected me off air, Travis. It was he did the Howard the Duck one,
which is a shame because that is just a perfect pairing of animated Kevin Smith, Howard the Duck. I think that would have been great. But we both also thought the M.O.D.O.K thing was dead last week too. We literally talked about it, and then I felt like 2 days later, it's like, guess what's coming to New York Comic-Con? And
they said, screw you, Marvel Alliance. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we're going to kill your credibility right here. Send tweet. No, I'm interested. This isn't a massive spoiler. Like, M.O.D.O.K's in the Avengers game. He has a big role. But one thing that's interesting is I feel they took a little bit of a darker turn with him, more serious, I'll say, not darker, a more serious tone, where I feel like Patton Oswalt, M.O.D.O.K, going to be more comedic. But again, it's just getting eyes on those characters. Like I said, I think you do need to sell a floating big head to audiences. I do think that could be a jumping the shark moment if done poorly, that just a lot of people could check out it.
If they can pull off the tree and the raccoon. Floating head.
I have after even further than that, once I saw Endgame, that big battle, I did go, oh, they could pull off anything. But there is still like, I'm gonna say this every week. That casting is the most important casting in Hollywood history. Whoever they get to play M.O.D.O.K, that's gonna be.
I still can't believe you're saying that.
Yeah.
It's gonna be the maker. Travis Hines says, "Do you think it'll be similar to Harley Quinn in tone and feel like the animated show? Tone and feel, comedic wise, yes. Rating, no. I don't know though. Kevin Smith, when he's working on Howard Duck, said it was going to be mature, and it is on Hulu, so there's a chance. But my worry is it could get scaled back a bit. I'll check it out because I have more interest in an animated M.O.D.O.K show than I do in Hellstrom, which I will give a chance and give a few episodes. But I'm interested. I'm glad I'm always glad for other Marvel stuff because, like I've said before, I never wanted Fox to be purchased by them because I liked having Deadpool. I liked having Logan. I'm a fan of New Mutants, so I like having adjacent or Marvel stuff that's not always just MCU. I love the MCU. I think it's the best franchise done, like quality wise, but I love variety. So I'm happy this M.O.D.O.K thing made it through the snap. That
would be interesting. Like I said, I'm just I'm not as excited for Hellstrom, but it's weird to say I'm a little more excited about M.O.D.O.K just because of the the interesting. It's like I don't have too much of a connection to Hellstrom, but M.O.D.O.K animated, like you said, a floating head going around and causing hijinks, voiced by Patton Oswalt. Yeah, you got me for a couple of episodes. I already have Hulu, so
I'd watch that show if it wasn't M.O.D.O.K. That pitch was good. Floating head, Patton Oswalt, done.
There we go.
Chris, nobody has a connection to Hellstrom, just to make that clear. So
that's true.
I'm definitely more interested in this M.O.D.O.K show than I am in Hellstrom for sure. I'll absolutely. I already have Hulu, so it's not going to cost me anything extra to at least watch the first couple episodes and give it a shot.
Just time.
Watch Hellstrom be like the best Marvel show yet, like better than Daredevil, better than Jessica Jones season 1. I'm saying it's probably not going to be, but imagine if it was, and it just takes us by storm. We're like, this thing's incredible. Like, I can't believe it. And then they get canceled.
Okay, so
I would too. Yeah.
I tried to say something to that effect about New Mutants, not in the sense that was going to be the best thing. I thought it was going to be the dark horse that it was going to surprise a lot of people. Well, not so much, unfortunately. But yeah, like I said, haven't seen it. I'm going to be the one that's going to say it's, from what I've heard from both of you all, it's not as bad as what some people are saying.
It's not the worst movie ever.
It's fine.
Yeah. Hair is fine.
I have left comic book movies far more disappointed than I did New Mutants. New Mutants, I got what I expected. I wanted some pretty visuals. I got some pretty visuals. I was easy to please.
There we go. All right, Travis, go.
Fanboy Clay, he one thing on the M.O.D.O.K thing. He says, "What about Mark Hamill's M.O.D.O.K?" I could see it. I could see it if M.O.D.O.K's not the main villain, because I still feel. Actually, I take that back, because Ghost, was played by the female from Black Mirror, and no one knows Walton Goggins, who's one of the greatest actors of our generation. He's such a great good character actor. So actually, I take that back. It could be Mark Hamill. People would like that. I always thought Mark Hamill was going to end up in Guardians 3 because him and James Gunn are always poking fun at that. I still think that could happen, but I would be down. I think he could get the right cadence of, you need a little seriousness, but you need controlled wackiness. You know, you don't want to go too wacky. You don't want like Tommy Wiseau level. You need like Christopher Walken.
Wow.
Christopher Walken in his prime would have been a perfect M.O.D.O.K, in my opinion. So that I don't think now. So you need someone of that level and era, I think.
The worry I would have about Hamill, and don't get me wrong, if they cast him, I will be ecstatic. But the worry I will have is he'll lean a little too much on the Joker voice, because
yes,
there's the Joker voice and then Hobgoblin and Spider-Man, but it's basically the Joker voice.
It is.
And then like even if you watch the Trickster in the 90s Flash, or when he reprised the role in the current CW series, you hear it there. Like if you close your eyes, you hear it there. So it's like I definitely am interested in it. It's like he could definitely play the part. He would be a lot of fun, and he definitely has the voice acting talent. I would just worry it'd be a little too Joker, but I mean, you know what? We'll give him a shot. Go ahead, cast him. We'll give him a shot.
All right, Travis, go make your pick.
I want to talk about the Spider-Woman business because yeah, I've had a conspiracy hat on for a while because
wait a minute, we got to make sure we've got some very devout Spider-Woman listeners at that point.
They're going to be all over us.
Be careful what you say, Brent. We've got some pretty pretty devoted. And that's not disparaging. I'm more impressed by how devoted this group is at that point.
Oh yeah,
more power to him.
Yes.
So there was an interview put out today. I got to pull. Do you have the direct quote in front of you, Chris? If not, I can pull it up. But
I've got the notes. So
okay, yeah. If you could pull it up. So yeah, as everyone knows, Olivia Wilde's directing a female-led Spider-Man character movie, which is everyone's kind of saying in the scoop business that it's Spider-Woman. And she said a few things. But Chris, what was the exact quote from that podcast that came out just a few days ago, or I guess sometime maybe today? Who knows?
Yeah, it was like the season 2 premiere of the Shut Up Evan podcast. This is by Evan Ross Katz. And, the question came to her about her work on Spider-Woman movie and made mention of Kevin Feige. She said, "All I can say is that this is by far the most exciting thing that's ever happened to me, because not only do I feel like I get to tell a story that, God, like, listen to me trying to avoid like Kevin Feige's pellet gun." And so the big thing is she mentioned Kevin Feige.
Oh yeah.
And right now this is a Sony production in the name that should not be mentioned about what they call Spider-Man characters.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I was saying this when we broke the news. No, we didn't break the news. We'll break some scoops one day. Chris is working on it. He has some people. No, but
I do have some people, but I don't I wouldn't call me breaking scoops.
If you find out who's playing M.O.D.O.K, I would be the first person to know next to your family. So I
put it in that group chat. I want to be number 2 on that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. My family is going to be so interested. I'll text my wife first and say, "What the heck? Who the heck is M.O.D.O.K?"
Annette Bening is playing M.O.D.O.K. She's coming back from Captain Marvel. No,
it'll be Guardians. Who?
Yeah. So when this was announced, there was 2 things. When she tweeted about it, she put the spider web, and then there's some comments, and then she tweeted about it again and linked Marvel Studios, not Sony, anything like Marvel Studios, the MCU, that. And then Josh Gad and her also had some back and forth about a joke, and she said something about like repaying him for all the times she's heard the Olaf song. Like they're joking, but again, she's talking about Marvel Studios and then Disney properties. So it was like, okay, it could just be coincidence, whatever. But today when she says Kevin Feige, this is full tinfoil hat. I know, because Chris always does this to me. He's like, you got to calm down. It's not what you could want something, but they're not going to give it to you. I know, Chris. I'm a grown adult. I have 2 kids. I know, but
You're a grown adult. I'm sorry. You had how long of a wrestling match that took place?
Yeah, 15 minutes. I had to train. I had to hit the gym. So I know that this is just, I'm going off just one little interview. Maybe she's just talking Kevin Feige. But for her to actually name drop Kevin Feige, to me, says that they have had conversations, whether it's Zoom, whether it's even through text of, I'm very excited. It could just be, hey, I'm happy for you doing like Spider-Woman. Maybe that's it. But I don't think so, because I think I had another comment she put something about like she just put an emoji of like a shush, or she said she couldn't say anything. So that feels very MCU. Like in the past, Ruben Fleischer, Tom Hardy, other than that awkward interview with Amy Pascal and Kevin Feige, there's been no linking of Kevin Feige. It's just like, would you like to, Tom Hardy? Oh, I love Tom Holland. That'd be great. That's always been the base level stuff. It's never been Kevin Feige might shoot me with a pellet gun, which one, confirmation he has a pellet gun. So good to know. Two, I think they've talked.
That's what we're concerned about.
I think they've talked, and I do think we are looking at a potential Tom Holland-esque situation, which could be good because I know, Brent, you want more deals. And if that is a Tom Holland situation, that means they are talking and working more things out. So that is my tinfoil hat theory. I'm saying it's confirmed. It's not confirmed. Don't take me to the bank, but that's what my tinfoil hat Travis is saying.
Scoop said it here first.
Yeah.
That's right. Here's the thing. There's massive implications if this is happening. But before I even get to that, I just want to tell you, when Spider-Man Far From Home ended with that credit scene, with Peter's identity being outed, when I first saw that movie, I was with Brock, with my friend Brock, and I turned to him and said, "Holy crap, they extended the deal." And then we all know what happened a couple months later, because I'm like, I swore that's like, there's no way they're ending a movie that way if they don't know that they're going to get to tell the next part of the story. And clearly I was wrong. So with that, just keeping, my track record in mind there, I don't see how, like, if they really are going to connect this has to mean, I don't see this as anything but a good thing, because the current deal, after the divorce that came back, was one more solo movie, Spider-Man You Can't Go Home Again, which is the title I'm banking on, but who knows, Spider-Man Home 3. And then one more team-up movie, Captain Marvel, Champions, whatever it's going to be, one more team-up movie. And then that's the end of the deal, as is. Like, people forget how many times like these deals have been made. Like, the first deal was Civil War and Homecoming. The next deal included Infinity War, Endgame, and Far From Home. It's like none of these deals have been extended very much. But if they're not doing this, if they're not branching out beyond Peter Parker's core cast of characters, to me, that's nothing but a good sign for the working relationship between these two. And while, yes, I would like Sony to just get out of the way entirely and just give the full licenses back. Yes, of course I want that to happen, but I'm realistic. That's not going to happen until Sony gets sold, which will eventually happen. But once Sony Studios get sold, fine, the rights go back. But before that, I want a good working relationship, because you're right. I don't want Tom Holland to leave. I will take the Venom if it gets me Tom Holland Spider-Man. I will accept that trade. I won't be the biggest fan about it, but I will take it, and it's fine. And who knows, Venom 2, whole new creative team behind it. Maybe it'll blow me away. It's going to get the opportunity. So if Olivia Wilde is doing a Spider-Woman movie and they're going to pair it up with the MCU, I see nothing but good things. We don't know which Spider-Woman, and there's been like 17 different Spider-Women. I'm going to just, for today, I'm going to hope it's Jessica Drew, and maybe we get some Jessica Drew, Carol Danvers friendship that is so strong in the comic books.
Really want that.
It could be going that direction. I hope it does.
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm glad you brought up the Carol Danvers, because that's who she has the strongest tie. It's not Peter at all. It's not Spider-Man at all. It is Carol Danvers at that point. So there's a lot of great storylines between the two. I think that I'm like we said, there's tons of different versions of Spider-Woman at that point. It's going to be Jessica Drew. I mean, that's the one that I would like it to be.
It has to be the Chris.
She is by far the most known one. Like,
yes,
if you were to put a picture of all the different Spider-Women, like, people would guess the others because of their costumes. Maybe today Spider-Gwen, but prior to that, like, Jessica Drew's costume, I'm not saying it's on the same level as Spider-Man's and some of the other characters, but it was at least as big on the level of what Iron Man was. What Thor was. Like, people would recognize her. I mean, she showed up in cartoons and stuff like that. She had her own cartoon back in the 70s or something like that. It's like, no, people do kind of know who she is, at least compared to some of the other Spider-Women, like Julia Carpenter. Nobody knows who that is. No, but right. Exactly. Or
she's related to John Carpenter, the director.
Isn't Julia Carpenter Madam Web now that I think about it? But regardless, my point is, there's so many different Spider-Women. She is the one most known outside of Spider-Gwen. But Spider-Gwen changed her name in the comics to Ghost Spider.
Big mistake.
Not calling her. I agree. They're not calling her Spider Woman anymore. They're not calling her Spider Gwen anymore. Her title's not that. It's got to be Jessica Drew. Like it has to be because it doesn't make sense to be any of the others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, Travis was just asking. Hines was saying, he says, well, it seems that Sony is taking the MCU villains with Toomes and Morbius, so why not connect them? After Morbius, will that universe connect? That's where my point was, though, as far as I don't think Feige has anything to do with Morbius other than he helped shepherd in Michael Keaton to be Toomes and everything like that. I think it's always been almost portrayed as like it's a Netflix Marvel thing as far as they're going to reference the MCU and maybe they could use stuff from the MCU, but the MCU is not going to pay any attention to Jared Leto in caves or Eddie Brock eating tater tots, like I don't think that's a thing, so that's the I didn't even mean to make it food, Chris. I didn't mean to.
They're only going to be able to reference it to the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, you're not going to see Thanos pop up in Morbius 2 and be like, I'm back and I'm here. That's why I think with
I mean they did have that poster. They did have that poster from Spider-Man poster in the Morbius trailer.
Yeah, but look at what they had. The one Spider-Man still has the ties there too. They used the Raimi suit from the PS4 loading screen. So who knows what they were doing.
Oh yeah, no. I just it's all these winks and nods. That's why people said, "Oh, Michael Keaton's in it." I said, "Let's wait and see exactly what that turns out to be."
Carnage and Venom 2 and the Morbius, whoever the big bad is of Morbius, they're not going to be mad at Tony Stark, right? So it's like
Nathan will be happy.
It's not connected if they're not mad at Tony Stark, so it's totally separate.
And remember, Brent, it's not Venom 2, it's Venom. There will be carnage.
Let there be carnage.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Venom 2, Carnage is coming. I don't know.
Yeah, Carnage Boogaloo. Yeah. But yeah, so I'm interested to hear more because we've heard nuggets, and I obviously with the world being the way it is, there won't be any press tours for movies. But I imagine if Kevin Feige, the same way Nolan and John Day Washington, they did Zoom calls and stuff with interviewers. If Black Widow does come out in November, which it's rumored to not, but let's say it does, there's going to be interviews with people over press and whatnot, and I could see someone asking that question, and he'll have a nice dodgy way of answering it. But then he'll also leave that one Kevin Feige nugget where like the door's open, so and then luckily he won't be on video.
Know.
Yeah. Oh, we love the Spider-Man characters. It feels like home when he's here, but who knows? But yeah.
Well, let's stay in the Spider Venom lovely world we're in and move on to another direct article. Spider-Man 3 Venom 2 won't release in theaters until pandemic is over, confirmed Sony head. So Directs learned that the delay to January or February of next year, while it's entirely possible that they're just going to be not releasing these movies until the pandemic's over, which we're looking at 2022 before we're really safe with that at that point, if we're lucky. But they get this from Comic Book Resources, is reporting that the Bank of America's 2020 media communication conference call, where the head of Sony said, what we won't do is make a mistake of putting a very, very expensive $200 million movie out in the market unless we're sure that theaters are open and operating at significant capacity. Let me just note that the production cost of Venom is rumored to have been between 100 and 116 million. Homecoming was 175. A big chunk of that was Robert Downey Jr.'s role.
15.
Yeah. And 160 from Far From Home. So
Perfect.
yeah,
so
you can combine a lot of
coming out. They're coming out. They're under 200.
Yeah. So combine them, yes. On their own, no, not 200 million.
On their own, they could be though if they're thinking of P&A print and advertising. That's how I took it.
But that's already factored in. Those production costs were already factored in. I made sure about that.
No, not the. I mean, like with these upcoming movies, that could be the way of.
That's a big jump, though, considering what the other ones were.
Yeah, but Venom was obviously it's different now because COVID. But Venom was a massive hit, so I think Morbius. I don't know what they're spending. If they spent anything over 100 million on Morbius, oh boy, that was whoever. If that's Amy Pascal, that should not have happened. They should definitely talk to her and be like, you know what? Let's not do that. Let's not do Jackpot. But Venom, I get. Venom massive hit is like what 800 million, so very like 200 away from $1 billion. I could see them hiking up that budget, being like, people love this, let's go crazy. Morbius, Spider-Man 3 and Venom, I get. Morbius, I think you could release, and it's weird because box office is going to be strange these next few years because Morbius is going to do lower than it would have already. But I feel like so many executives now have that. Whoever greenlit Morbius with that budget can go, well, see, it didn't do that well because COVID, which is true, but I don't think Morbius was ever going to do that well. So people have a lot of scapegoats here as far as the budget. And Venom, I don't care about. Morbius, I don't care about. Spider-Man 3 is what interests me as far as if they don't release it, but it's in, let's say the MCU does get going and they start releasing stuff, but then Sony doesn't, and we've kind of thought that maybe he is going to be in Captain Marvel or something like that. What happens if it comes that time where he's supposed to be in these movies and they're not pulling the trigger? And I just feel I don't think that would happen. I think Feige and them would come to a conclusion where you are going to have to release this. So I think in theory they're not lying, but I think they would be they would be forced into a corner and say, you got to put this out.
Well, it's all a reaction to what's been going on with Tenet, and that, if you did not see Tenet doing gangbusters, when they released it, I'm sorry, you're all kidding yourselves at that point. What I've seen, it's done what I expected. But if Warner Brothers was thinking that it was going to do the gangbusters, I'm sorry, they need to fire whoever told them that.
Well, they kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit with some of their release requirements and stuff. Like they wouldn't allow it in a drive-in theater, for example, if traditional theaters weren't there.
Yeah, I heard Ray talk about that. Yeah, I said it's crazy.
He's not happy at all. Yeah, I've seen the text messages. He's not pleased. Here's the thing though about Spider-Man. It's important to remember Spider-Man is now financed roughly a third of it, like 30% of it, by Marvel.
Yeah.
That brings that 200. Let's just say they balloon the budget up from 160 to 200 million. Okay.
Yeah.
That could be a plausible
big catering.
Or maybe they're going in with the marketing. There's still, when you take out the 30% of that, you're back down to roughly 140 for Sony's risk, right? I think my math is right there. So it's like, I don't know. I don't see, I know like the headline showed a picture of Spider-Man and Venom and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but neither of them they didn't have movies that big. I mean, the Amazing Spider-Man were, but Venom wasn't. There's no way Venom 2 is that much. Maybe if they're counting the marketing and stuff with it, but they're probably not. And then as soon as Marvel movies are back in the full swing, Sony is not going to hang back and say, we're not releasing Spider-Man 3. And they may not even entirely have the ability to do that because depending on how the contracts are set, they get the 70% of the risk and the reward, but they may not have entirely decision of when it's released. Part of that's going to be planned around the rest of the MCU.
Yeah, and Sony, the other big picture they have is the Ghostbusters Afterlife. That's the other one that's on their docket.
Yeah, and that one they can hold back as long as they want because it's not connected to anything. And I think that one, Ghostbusters, as far as I've seen, it looks good. It has a lot of fan will as far as the director and everything. I think that's one that you can hold off and wait.
Oh, yeah. It's just, I'm just mentioning that's the other one they're holding back at that point.
Yeah, and then I don't know what else they have in the pipeline cooking up because Men in Black was a failure for them. I guess they have another Jumanji that they were working on because those have been big hits, but even the second one wasn't as big. So I'm with Brent that I do think just in the next 5 years or so, they will be bought by somebody. Obviously, people always point to Apple, but I am very interested to see what happens in the next 5 years. And maybe they're really banking on these Marvel movies, but they might not be doing the greatest with the way things are right now.
Yeah, I mean, I get that they don't want to do what Warner Brothers is doing. Again, it's in deep into next year. Yeah, you can start looking at it. I think that it's okay right now. These movies have already been delayed. At least Venom's already been delayed at that point. So to say what he said, well, you're already delaying it till next year anyway. So you saying this is not, any news. I think he's getting a little hyperbolic just by, what happened with Tenet at that point, but well, I'll take your favorite GIF there, Travis, saying, "Sure, Jan, sure, you'll hold it back."
Sure, Jan, yeah.
All right, well, let's get into I think happier news in the sense of Chris Hemsworth and Thor. He is very adamant that he is not going to be leaving the MCU anytime soon unless he gets shuttled off at that point. This comes from Cinema Blend, and they basically he was Chris Hemsworth was being interviewed by a Polish outlet, Man, and this is basically loosely translated from Google Translate. They said when asked about if he was planning on leaving. He says, "Are you crazy? I'm not going into any retirement period. Thor is far too young for that. It's only 1500. I'm only 1500 years old. It is definitely not a film that I say goodbye to this brand. At least I hope so." So, but he has signed on. When he signed on, this is 2009, and so that means he's he'll be eventually one of the longest staying actors in the MCU. You know, with Robert Downey and Chris Evans, and bowing out. They were which one was longer, Brent? You'd probably know that one off the top of your head.
Robert Downey Jr. had more appearances.
Yeah.
He's trying to go for that Jackman record. That's what he wants to break. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be it.
Didn't Downey end up tying Jackman for a number of appearances?
I think he
count him out now.
I think he did, because I'd have to think of how many Fox X-Men movies there are, but he's been in all of them except the Deadpools and what was the last one? Dark Phoenix.
Yeah.
New Mutants. Yeah.
But they asked him furthermore of what's going on with Love and Thunder. As you read the script, what do you think about it? And he said, after reading the script, I can say I'm very excited. I'm sure that there will be a lot of love, a lot of lightning in the production. He laughs. I'm glad that after all that happened in Avengers Endgame, I'm still part of the MCU and we can continue the story of Thor. Of course, I can't reveal anything about the plot, but to satisfy your curiosity, I will say that reading the script, I had a lot more fun than on Thor Ragnarok, and that shows something, because this movie is brilliant. And that's the important thing to remember. A lot of people, I'm not one of them, but a lot of people really get down on Thor Ragnarok, and especially Taika Waititi and what he brings to that. But remember, Chris Hemsworth was very upset by how, and was very disappointed by where they were taking the character after Dark World. And so when Taika comes in and the writers come in and bring a new take on Thor, yeah, I understand that a lot of people who like Thor in the comics, he's not that jokey, he's not that stuff. But remember, if you like Chris Hemsworth as Thor, you got to do what you can to keep the actor happy, or so you're looking for someone else at that point. And like it or hate it, you're still going to see this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. As far as, hey, I'm someone that's in the vast minority that I actually like the first Thor better than Dark World and Ragnarok. I like that style, but for me, I don't think the mainstream, like the general audience, they have more gone to the Thor Ragnarok. And I think Thor Ragnarok's great. I put that today. I was talking about with Lisa from I Love That Movie. Just like that's one of my comfort movies. It's not my favorite MCU movie. I don't even know if it's in my top 10, but that's the one I end up putting on the most because I just have such a good time with it. And I think that he has been somebody, there's always been times where Downey's like, oh, at some point, you got to leave when you're on top. And Evans for a while was saying like, oh, I'm kind of done with this. Then he walked it back. Hemsworth, every interview since he's been Thor, has always said, I'm down to do this as long as possible. I was just laughing because I would love if Kevin Feige's like trying to pitch him, like, we're killing you off this movie. And he's just in the press, like, no, I'm not going anywhere. I want to stay. Like, he's trying his best to like change their minds. But I think it's smart to keep him. He's one of our last, we don't know what's happening with Ruffalo, but still Ruffalo, I don't want to. Yeah, well, no, I meant like as far as what his his longevity is far as he going to get back in action. We all believe that, but maybe there's a chance he is just injured and he's the guy on the chair sort of deal. And even them, he's a recast. I'm not trying to downplay him, but Thor Hemsworth has been here since the very beginning. He was one of the first. So I think he is that stalemate of we've lost Downey, we've lost Evans, but it's good to have some familiarity going into a new phase. You're going to have Shang-Chi, you're going to have Eternals, but then you're going to know at the end of this phase, oh, we have Thor, one of our favorites, one of our OG members. And he's younger in a business point of view. Everyone brings this up and I hate it, but still, if you look at his track record, box office, before, none of his movies really hit. He's trying with Men in Black, that didn't work. Ghostbusters, like, he's not had much luck, unfortunately. He's a great actor. I love Baptiste El Royale. That's one of his best roles. But outside, I think he's a smart guy that knows, one, that he likes doing this role. There's a change up. He likes Taika, but two, just on a business point of view, it makes a lot of sense. And I'm down. I've loved the character more and more. I think Infinity War was the peak for that character. And I still think there's tons of still Thor storylines we haven't even touched.
Yeah, I'm glad he wants to. I mean, we don't know that he's not leaving, but he wants to stay. We at least know as of today, if he ends up leaving, it's probably not his choice. It's probably a creative choice made by Feige and company. And And that's fine if they do it because, I mean, we're getting a fourth Thor movie. You know, I said earlier, holy cow, we're getting 3 Ant-Man movies. Would you have pegged Thor as the title, as the
No.
franchise to get 4?
No.
I mean, I guess technically Avengers, but for solo franchises. And Ragnarok to me is my favorite Thor movie. I like Thor. I like Thor: The Dark World. I think Ragnarok's the most fun.
Mhm.
And there's something different with Chris Hemsworth in that movie. Chris Hemsworth was having more fun making that movie, I feel. And it really shines through. And they really kind of worked the relationship with Bruce that they developed in that movie. Valkyrie they brought into it. Loki I thought was great in that movie. It's a blast. I love that movie. I get why people don't like it because they get hung up on it has to look this way. It has to look like Thor 1, or maybe we'll deviate just as far as Thor 2, and they can't accept farther. And then but they forget Thor had quite a few jokes in the first movie. Thor had quite a few jokes in the second movie. It's like he has been a funny character, and they just leaned into it more. So I am all about more Chris Hemsworth as Thor. Hopefully he survives. Hopefully Love and Thunder. Hopefully, that he's right, that we will get to see more of him. Let's Thor 5, Thor 6, just make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, he can. The interesting thing, the good thing about Thor is that he's always going to be this man out of time, or a man like, learning things new. That I mean, how many different times we refer to the rocket as the rabbit, or Groot as tree, those will lie because it's believable at that point. But again, I'm more excited to see with Jane Foster and the Mighty Thor.
Yeah.
That I'm curious to see how that gets brought into play, and if we continue that character, because that storyline in the comics was awesome. What they did with Jane Foster. So, but yeah, so it'll be interesting. But to continue on with Thor, just a little short story that added on to it. Thor: Love and Thunder will utilize the Volume virtual production system. So, for those of you that are, and probably a lot of you listen, are fans of The Mandalorian, if you watch the Disney Gallery, we saw what I didn't know at the time was a new way to film that Jon Favreau brought into play. And basically they called it the Volume, and Taika Waititi was one of the directors on Mandalorian. He's going to be utilizing it, and it's basically like almost a 360 kind of, if not 360 kind of, what was the LED virtual production at that point, using gaming technology and things like that. That basically, in a COVID environment, you can create basically whatever kind of environment you want and do amazing filming with. And so that's what they're going to utilize in Thor: Love and Thunder. So that's awesome that they're going to do that. I mean, what a better way to do it than with Thor and whatever new Asgard's going to look like.
I just can't wait for Ewan McGregor when he does Obi-Wan and he sees this technology and he thinks back to what they had to do in the prequels. And like you watch that footage of like Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman on this like truffle, and there's just nothing. There's tennis balls being shot at them. Like this is literally like a VR experience. It's taking a green screen room and just putting it behind you. And now like this is the best way, because of course it's not gonna be the fully polished effects, but you can literally say like, before you have to, okay, explain to me, like, what am I looking at? This is pretty much what you're looking at right here. This monster, this character. And it's great for stuff like Endgame. We heard many things where Dave Bautista and Tom Holland didn't even meet to the premiere of Infinity War. Now, I'm not going to say you're going to have Tom Holland beside him acting there, but you could literally have characters placed where you're supposed to be looking, everything like that. So in COVID, this is going to be a very popular way to shoot, but I think this is it's going to take, I'm not going to say it's going to be the norm and green screen's going to go away, but I think you're going to see it used a lot more. And it's kind of cool because Star Wars has been at the forefront of lots of production starts, and Taika's already used it. So it's kind of a no brainer. It makes sense. And I'm excited for them because it's probably a healthier work environment as well.
Yeah, this is going to be the set. There's two now. One that they used for Mandalorian at that point, and it says, looking at it, it appears that the Pinewood Volume will be up and running in February 2021, and the one that they're being utilized for Fox Studios Australia is a larger custom version of the original that is yet to be built. So there'll be two out there for production. So it probably very expensive, brought to you by ILM, but
It's less expensive though than you starting up production and having to shut down right away, right?
Oh yes,
and there's I don't know which ones they're using, but the word is the Batman's doing the same thing when they go back, where they're using indoor sets, but they also have a similar structure. I'm not sure if it's the same volume, but it's very much like that. So I think that's the risk factor works a lot. It's a lot expensive. Maybe when they get back to normalcy, they won't use it as much, but I think they will, honestly.
No, they definitely will, because you keep saying it's expensive, but it's cheaper than building all those other sets, and it looks better than traditional green screen does. And so,
by far,
like if you go back and look at the Mandalorian, it was used heavily in the Mandalorian, and that's part of why that movie, but that's the point, why that TV show looks with those movie quality set pieces, movie quality effects and stuff for the backgrounds and environments and things. And so, yeah, and during that Disney Gallery, the Mandalorian thing, I think they said, Favreau said that like Marvel had come and taken a look at it and stuff, and you just know they're going to do that. This makes the perfect sense, because you're now bringing it in to the one Marvel director who has the one current Marvel director, who has experience with it. And that's going to allow Feige and company to get more and more to see if they want to move it out towards the other productions as well. I think the volume is huge. As soon as I saw that stuff related to the Mandalorian, you're like, this is a game changer for the entire industry. And if anything, that's underselling it.
And it's great for the production. Again, if you have not seen Disney Gallery, it is awesome. Particularly, all the segments are, but this one in particular, just because of the story of how Favreau, came upon this technology and how much it improved, with just from a production standpoint, for how he is literally the directors and the cinematographers are literally in the scene and can be visualizing it through the VR technology. I mean, it's really cool.
I have one point that's about Thor, but not about this. Fanboy Clayport, do you think he will ever turn back into Donald Blake to keep the story to eventually turn back into Thor? I think we're past that point. I think there was maybe a version of that early on, and honestly, I don't think I'd want it unless it was a Hawkeye version of, we're going to write the character off, give him a happy ending. But my happy ending for Thor is not him living on Earth as Donald Blake, in my opinion. So never say never. They could easily pull back to it. And I know they've already established in the MCU that Donald Blake is actually an ex-boyfriend of Jane Foster. So I think that would kind of be weird. So maybe they could do a Donald Blake like character, but I think that time's passed.
Well, his father's dead, and his father's the one that banished him into that being. So.
It doesn't seem like he needs a secret identity. I mean, Marvel has never been about the secret identity as much as DC has, and especially in these movies. So many characters. I mean, right now, do any of the characters have a secret identity? I don't think they do.
Pending what happens in Spider-Man 3, like if they kind of say, "Oh no, it's not him," but other than that, no, I don't think so. I think they're all out and about. I can't think of anybody. Like, I guess we'll have to see what happens with like Moon Knight and stuff like that.
Maybe Captain Marvel from a security by obscurity standpoint, just because she's been off world, so nobody knows who she is. Everyone knows she's dead.
But no one cares about her. Like in the sense of like, oh, you're Carol Danvers. Cool. You're around in the 90s. Like, what does it mean to any of these people other than Monica, like the Rambos and everything like that, right? So, but yeah, Summer Hansi pointed out in our chat. Yeah, if you've never seen the first Thor, that he gets that name tag when she sticks it on him and it says Donald Blake. So yeah, it was a fun little Easter egg, but I think that's what it's going to be for the foreseeable future.
Oh, come on. I did want to hear him say, the walking cane, and then bam, turns
like maybe if we get that what if show, like a season 2 or like a multiverse show, then you could say like, oh, this is what happened to Thor in another world. I could see that, but in the main MCU, no, I don't see it.
Yeah. So, all right. So we got some back-to-back She-Hulk news that happened pretty much one on top of the other.
Yeah, today that was crazy. Just like broke boom, boom. So I was waiting for that triple of the casting, and it didn't happen. I was checking my feed. Trick. Yeah, I really wanted. Because I'm very curious to see who they get. So,
well, why don't you take that, Travis? Why don't you take we can talk about them both at the same time.
Yeah. So they announced the director. Let me make sure I say her name right. Kate Coiro, I think is how you say it. She's going to be the director of a few episodes and the executive producer and the showrunner. So that's big. And then we talked about this earlier, but sets production for early 2021. She had directed things like Brooklyn Nine-Nine and some other kind of comedy shows, but all of them were ones that are well regarded. They're all they're all ones that I've heard. I'm in a difficult spot because I've not seen any of them, but they're all ones I've heard regarded from other people as far as, oh, I really like this. And that's a good sign because that kind of happened with Deborah Chow for me with Mandalorian, where I'd known her from that. But I was like, okay, I've seen her with Jessica Jones. That's great. And then she came in and for me, she directed the best episodes of Mandalorian. I'm excited she's doing Obi-Wan. I hope she does a Marvel movie one day, as was rumored a few months ago. So I think this is great that one, we're moving forward. Two, she seems to have a good track record in TV, and it's more comedy based stuff, but we have heard that multiple times in reports that this one will be, of course MCU has comedies, but I think comedy has been stressed a bit more on this one than others. So I would almost feel like it might be more in the Ant-Man sort of realm. Like that first Ant-Man's very kind of comedic. The second one is, but the first one specifically to me is a full-on comedy in the MCU, for not a bad thing, but I think it's going to be more that style. So I'm excited. I want to get that casting. I want to know what's happening. That show, I don't know if it's in my top 5 most excited for the MCU properties, but I'm very intrigued in it. This could be a sleeper hit for me. And that's also just because Jennifer Walters, like, I've read her, but she's not one of my most well-known characters. So I'm excited to, once we get closer, I'm going to be butt breaking open books and getting into it. But I think that shows a lot of potential.
What do you think, Brandon? What feeling about like the directing and then the start date?
I was looking through her IMDb and it's like, okay, I've seen scattered episodes of this and that, and I don't know if they're her episodes or not. The only one I could definitively say was the episode of Shameless that she did. I definitely saw that because of her IMDb. That was the only show that I had seen all the way through. But I love every episode of that, so I must have loved the one that she did. It's fine. I don't know anything about her. If anything, this just makes me want to look at some more of her work. So that's kind of where I'm at. But for me, I was waiting on the casting news to drop. It's like, once we've got the director, now we need to cast our lead. Once we have that, then it's like, okay, I'm ready to start finding out more of the details about this show. It's like, get us the lead first, and then everything else can come afterwards. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, the article goes in that supposedly looking for an Alison Brie type, but open to all races.
But not Alison Brie.
But not Alison Brie, yeah. They're open to all races. Because, I mean, again, Jennifer Walters can be so many different, and that's one of the things that I kind of stumbled upon, and is that She-Hulk is the last created character by Stan Lee.
Yeah, I saw that today too. I didn't know that. That's his last major one. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. So it'd be cool. I mean, this is where we've heard that supposedly Ruffalo's already in for at least a pilot episode, because of how she becomes She-Hulk is spoiler alert from the comics. She has to get a blood transfusion because she is shot.
So I hope they change some things out with that origin. I just find that's one of the I've always thought that's such a cheesy origin. Like, I'm the fucking Hulk and I'm gonna give you a blood transfusion. What, like, I feel
nothing
like
can go wrong with that.
Yeah, I hope there's some other way. I don't know. They might just do that, but I trust they might fine tune it a little.
I mean, if they do it, they just need to put him in a situation where there literally is no other choice.
Yeah.
She's unconscious. There's nobody around. There's nobody around. Like, it's just the two of them and he does it or something. It's like, whatever. I don't care. I hope the connection is there. I hope he shows up. I don't want him to be in the whole show. I don't want him to be in every episode. But, get in, help get established, and maybe one other appearance of him as Hulk, where we could have maybe Hulk versus She-Hulk just for a couple minutes, and then send him off on her way and let her be the star of the show.
Do you think for the casting that they will get a name that's somebody that is relatively popular? Or do you think they're going to go the more up and comer, a no name sort of route? Because I think with Miss Marvel, they're definitely going to go like the more up and coming route. Like, I don't know what like they said an Alison Brie type, and Alison Brie made that joke like, I'm here and I'll do it. So I that could mean that they are looking for someone kind of like her, but not of that stature. I personally lean toward I think they will get a name, even if the name isn't someone massive. I think just someone like, oh, I've seen them, like this director, right? Oh, I've seen some of her work. I don't know exactly where, but I've seen it. So I think we're going to get somewhat of a name. I'm not expecting like Brie Larson type after an Oscar, but someone of note. That's what I think.
I would tend to agree. I feel like the younger characters are the easier ones to go in with the unknown. And for the older characters, I don't know, maybe my thinking is off here. It just feels like that would be a good time to bring in the more established actors and actresses and let them command the role more. And so, yeah, Ms. Marvel could and should totally be an unknown character or unknown actress. I mean, bring someone in. But for She-Hulk, yeah, I'm not going to be upset if I've never heard of the person who gets cast in the role, but I do feel like an established actress would probably be the way to go.
Yeah, I think the show itself has an interesting dynamic, being like, okay, you got kind of name recognition. Oh, I see Hulk, She-Hulk. Okay, I knew that, but what will bring people even more to it? Yes, it's a Marvel thing. More people are going to see it just because it's Marvel. But yeah, I agree. It's going to have to be some sort of name, but it doesn't have to be the biggest star in the world, because this is going to be probably a not only multi-season, but also with the strong potential of coming into the MCU films.
And I agree with that. And I agree with also Sarah Hansen in our YouTube chat was talking about how lots of people were fan casting Rosario Dawson. Now she might be a Mandalorian, so that's out. But I would see someone of that level, where someone that's been around for quite a while, or someone that has a lot of credits to her name, that is popular, has a fan base, and they put him in there. So I think we've seen it with, like, obviously Mandalorian has big stars, but I think Rosario Dawson is a bit bigger level than some of the stars. Not Pedro now, because Pedro is just building and his star is growing and growing. But the rest of the people on there that are newer, I think you could get someone, maybe not, they might go a little bit younger for her, but I still think I honestly do want it to be Alison Brie. I'm open to other options, but I do, from what I've read with She-Hulk, and we know she's going to be CGI. I know people have been like, well, you need someone. No, you don't need anyone buff at all. Like, if you're going to CGI her into the Hulk, they're not going to paint her. It's not Lou Ferrigno era, so the size doesn't really matter right now to me.
Well, I mean, I want it to be what we've known She-Hulk to be in the comics until fairly recently, when she has not been the She-Hulk I liked at that, but especially in Empire, it's just I don't like what they've done to that character.
You mean the Savage She-Hulk?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I definitely prefer like the Dan Slott run, where she, you get some time of her as Walters, as Jennifer, you get some time of her as She-Hulk. She can effectively transform at will, and it almost gets to some psychology there of like, when is she which character? Because it's not just straight, oh, I'm at work, I'm a lawyer, so I'm going to be Walters. It's a confidence thing. It's a mental state thing. Like, I think there is room for those kind of stories to be told, but you really need to not do the Savage She-Hulk. And I'm in favor of the Green Hulk, of Ruffalo's Hulk, eventually reverting back to the Savage at some point. I like him as Professor Hulk. I like him as Smart Hulk, but I'm okay with him going back. But to me, she is just not as interesting that way.
I agree. You chop her legs out from under her, because the second they were to go that route, everyone in the mainstream would just say, oh, it's just another version of Hulk. It kind of is, but you can make her a completely different character. That's why if you read comic books, yes, there's 4 Robins, but they're distinctly different. So if you just make her, I'm mad at you.
There's more than just that.
Exactly. You got Carrie Kelly, you got a bunch of them, but like with Hulk, if you make,
aren't there more than 4?
Yeah, there. How many is there? Is there over 10 now? Because at some point we're gonna get there. I imagine with multiverses and whatnot. Are we gonna count the fucking Crow Robins that are just yelling "Crow"? Like, that's technically a Robin, But yeah, I think they gotta go the route that Brent was talking about, and you, Chris, because that's just the more intriguing and especially for a series as well. If it's gonna be multi 6 to 8 episodes, I'm not that interested in a Savage She-Hulk for that. I think the other route's better.
And that's why I like, I compare her in a bit, even though, yes, this character came first, what Jessica Cruz, the Green Lantern at that point, of seeing what you are gifted or you are given this power, what can you do? In this case, it's She-Hulk, when a lot of times she'll stay as the quote unquote Hulk version of herself, because the power gives her confidence that she was lacking in her quote unquote human form. So it brings this, like, do you use that to become a better person at that point? But a quick little side note, I just saw this, we talked about last week, Chloe Zhao, her film, Nomadland, is getting some huge awards right now. It's getting a lot of play. I think it's in your neck of the woods. The TIFF Festival is getting some huge play and awards with that. Our director of Eternals. So, definitely putting her in the right role.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to see her get some recognition that way before she hits the mainstream in a way that she hasn't yet with the MCU banner behind her.
That'd be nice saying they getting an Oscar right before Eternals comes out. That'll be nice.
And then Eternal 2 hike up that price, like Patty did to do Warner Brothers justifiably. Like, oh, you didn't
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a guarantee. That's part of everyone's contract. You win an Oscar, that's a guaranteed bump in pay. You don't negotiate that. That's guaranteed.
Yeah. Oh, imagine if an MCU actor won an Oscar for their role. Imagine the next contract. Oh boy, that they'd almost not want that. They'd be like, no, we can't have them win.
We already
the Oscar.
had Robert Downey Jr. and he didn't win an Oscar.
Yeah, we can't have that.
All right. So our last ones were the one, enjoy all stories, but this was some pretty interesting stuff with, going to Falcon and Winter Soldier. They are back to filming. We see some set photos from Emily Van Camp suiting up as Sharon Carter, Agent 13. We're seeing George St. Pierre is reprising his role as George Braddock
the Leaper.
Batroc the Leaper, yes. So he is back.
The Leaper.
He did not meet a grisly end in Winter Soldier, and along with Desmond Chiam, who is playing an unconfirmed character. So a lot of set photos coming out. But what was more interesting is what Murphy's Multiverse broke this week as well, or last week, was a lot of filming that is going on. That some people looking down from their apartments, seeing huge fight sequences being filmed with Falcon Winter Soldier, namely seeing Bucky and basically it's U.S. agent dealing with a kidnapping and going and some what looks to be basically 3 or 4 armed, quote unquote, powered women at that point. Did y'all take a look at some of that footage?
Yep.
Yeah, I saw it, and I kind of skimmed through the article of him, and it's like, I don't recognize any of these characters. Maybe Titania, or however you say her name, maybe her. I think I've seen her. I'm thinking of the right character connected to the Absorbing Man, but outside of her, I don't think I've recognized any of these people from this group called the Grapplers. This is news to me. I'm gonna have to do some research on this one.
A dejected high school wrestling team, the Grapplers.
Yeah, I had to do it too when I saw it at that point. Apparently, the Grapplers in the comics are a group of female, like you said, wrestler, or a group of
comics
female wrestlers.
Are funny.
Yes,
comic books are funny.
Similar to John Walker, who is U.S. agent, who is powered up by the Power Broker, and the Power Broker Corporation is using technology to augment strength and superhuman abilities, and so they also superpowered these group of women to in this case looks to be kidnapping some people from the G20 summit, which interestingly enough it's a 2023 year that this is taking place in.
Well, that's so that's the timeline right after Endgame.
Yeah.
5-year jump. So they're in this new world. Yeah, I am very excited for this show for many reasons. One, just because I think it's going to have a very political slant, and I like properties that kind of do that. Black Panther, Logan, like when they have a kind of deeper, like even Dark Knight to the extent where it's like, oh, how far can you go, stuff like that. I like it more than just a beam up. This feels like the Serpent Society we never got. This feels like a direct sequel to Winter Soldier, because you have GSP back, you have Van Camp back. So I feel that this is going to pick up exactly where Winter Soldier left off. It's not going to be Civil War needed to happen to set things going forward. And I love Civil War. I think that this will be more a kind of ground-based stuff, and I'm very interested to see what they do use Agent. That's what I was going to ask you guys, because this set of Grapplers I could easily see them being opposing villains and U.S. Agent starting to help, and then he eventually becomes a villain, or I could see him secretly working with them, because that's the thing with comics. I don't know, is he going to be the straight up villain? Is he going to be, he's had runs where he is, I think you guys would have to correct me. I feel like recently he's been more on the good side, right? U.S. Agent? Do you know?
So. I think so.
And especially from this footage, it seems that him and Bucky are working together to prevent this. So at some point, they are working on the same side.
Exactly. So we don't know if U.S. Agent comes in and it's the government playing Falcon against U.S. Agent against each other, or if it's him doing a boys where he's posing as he's good, but really U.S. Agent is just as crappy as the rest of the villain. Like U.S. Agent to me is very, and that's where the political slant comes in. Of I love this idea that the real Captain America gave this man the shield, said, "You're Cap," but then the government who did create Captain America goes, "Nah, you're not our guy. This is our guy." And I just think that creates so much tension and so much like kind of good, juicy character drama, especially for Sam, who we've kind of, Anthony Mackie has said his struggle is, can I be Captain America? And then you're going to have a room full of powerful people telling me like, no, you shouldn't be Captain America. So I think there's tons there. And I love seeing all these characters come back. And I think it's going to be very politically twisty, like Winter Soldier, where there's going to be twists and turns and who can you trust? And I think U.S. Agent, every episode, you'll be like, he's on our side. And then you're like, nope. Oh, he's on our side. Nope. So I think there's tons. And I don't think we're getting this year. I know they're trying to get production going, but even if it's early next year, I'm very into, I just want to see this show so bad.
Yeah, definitely. This is the show this is the Disney Plus show I'm the most anticipating. It's the comic property that's in development, let's say, I'm most anticipating right now. Basically, Spider-Man would be the only thing that will top it in my eyes as far as anticipation levels go. So yeah, it's definitely crushing that. We should be almost done with it by now. Should have almost all of it out on Disney Plus, and instead we're just patiently or not so patiently waiting. You know, I was thinking about it. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Walker starts off as at least an antagonist to our perspective of looking at it from Sam, and then from Sam's point of view. And then, you know, as the story progresses, it finds out that, yeah, maybe he really is just following his orders, but he really is a good guy. He's on the side for good. He wants to do the right thing. And I could see him at that point teaming up with Bucky and Sam to take on these other people, or we still don't know exactly yet what Zemo's going to be like. I think Zemo, his inclusion is included, you know, is more evidence in the way of the Thunderbolts down the line. But I do think for now, I could see Zemo being the villain of this. We just don't know yet. And so maybe they end up teaming up to take down Zemo, and the whole thing's going to end with Walker just saying, okay, you're really Captain America, and him putting up his costume or changing it, modifying it to be the U.S. agent at that point.
And U.S. Agent could even be a member of the Thunderbolts as well. They can change whatever they want, because I do think on the Thunderbolts, you will have a character who is fully good that has to keep these people in line, like a Rick Flag and Suicide Squad. I always thought that was Bucky. I think it still could be Bucky, but maybe it's U.S. Agent of like, hey, I've kind of, you know, I did some things regrettably. How can I find a way? Well, I'm going to try to, I was maybe on a villainous side or a villainous path, and I came back. I'm going to help these people do the same. So I think there's tons of room to play out there.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I agree with you. This was the show when they announced it that I'm most looking forward to, next to What If and WandaVision. So, but that's all the news.
So yeah, before we get into our listener questions and some fact or fictions, we're going to throw to another ad break. So we will be back in just a second. And we're back. As always, it's good to be back. Chris, you have we answered Clay's question earlier in kind of the main topic discussion. Did you want to throw Greg's? I think those are the only ones, right? We hit on ones. That's why in the future, if you want questions while we're live, watch us along. It was fun. Thank you to everyone that people are still watching, but thank you to everyone that tuned in, send some good questions for us. So that was lots of fun to get some impromptu conversation.
And feel free to answer those upcoming fact or fictions in the chat when Travis does his at that point. But
when I'm sweating bullets here because my AC machine's not working. That's right. If anyone's watching live, I'm sweating like the State Puff Marshmallow Man right now. I'm going, and I can't open my window because we don't have fires. That's maybe some people in your country create some fires that are coming over to our side here. So we got tons of smoke. It's great. It's great.
Yeah, no, not so much. Yeah.
Those, I'm not tired of those memes yet, though. My personal favorite is still the BVS Bruce Wayne showing up late to the general reveal, and he's like running and he sees the explosion from Zod, and good stuff. The internet's good for some things.
I don't know. I think the one with from Raimi Spider-Man, Green Goblin blowing out the window without May. That's pretty good too.
Finish it.
It's a boy. All right. So yeah, Greg asked us to both of us at that point, and I kind of titled this: buy or sell Rainn Wilson as Dr. Otto Octavius, can he pull this off? Does it seem like a good fit? He had apparently seen some of, probably as we see, all of us probably see on Twitter, basically, people put that image next to the actor and said, let me explain, it's an interesting one. He did play the voice of Lex Luthor in Death and Return of Superman, DC animated, and the Apocalypse War at that point. I thought he had a great voice for Lex. This would be interesting just because of I have not seen him in much outside of The Office. So separating him from Dwight, that's a interesting shift. I think he could do it, but I think that would be the struggle some people with casting him for that.
Yeah, that's where I still am running right now. I'm waiting for Wonder Woman with Kristen Wiig because that's still a big holdup for me as far as I've seen other SNL do comedic stuff and serious stuff, but then I've seen other people that just can strictly do comedy. I'm gonna sound like a broken record because I was always poo-pooing the John Krasinski as Reed Richards, and I would poo-poo this as well, just because I have seen him in other stuff and serious things, and I just have never really bought into him in that way. And maybe this would be it, but I don't know. Maybe it's just my general that I think The Office is one of the most overrated shows of all time. I've seen 3 seasons, just never loved it like everyone else. I would not be for it in the sense of, and I also have made this case before too, that if you look at their past for Spider-Man castings of villains, they've gone after big top tier names, Michael Keaton, Jake Gyllenhaal. I don't think Rainn Wilson as Doc Ock would be that really casting. It wouldn't be like, boom, look who's playing Doc Ock, look who's playing Craven. So I don't think they would do it. And 2, I'm not personally into it, but I always put the asterisk of any character can turn me around and do a great performance. And I'll go, well, he had that second gear and good for him. We've seen it many times of people being cast and being proven wrong.
I when I saw this question, I had to look up who it was. I was like, who are we talking about here? And so, but I've seen maybe 2 episodes of The Office and probably not even start to finish. And I saw Juno, and I don't think I saw anything else he was in. I don't remember him in Juno. I do recognize him from The Office, but that's like the extent of my knowledge about him. So I'll say by the looks, yes, he has the part.
Mm-hmm.
Does he stand next to Gyllenhaal and Keaton for Spider-Man villains right now? No, he doesn't. So maybe I could see him as Otto if like he was part of an ensemble, like if they're bringing in a Sinister Six, or even if they had somebody else as the major villain of the movie who was a bigger name. But I mean, he definitely is a very recognizable face, but I just don't think the name is there. Maybe I'm wrong because I know The Office is huge just because I haven't seen it, but it's just like that was my first thought is like I think they want at least the track record, like Travis said, they've been going bigger names. So I mean, but visually he does have the look for it. So it's like, okay, you've got the look. I can see it. You can just give him the arms and dress him up as Dwight, and you've got Dr. Octopus pretty much. That's fine with me. But I don't know. That said, I will say this though, I'm a big proponent that the comedic actors, comedy's harder than drama. So it's like if they can do comedy, they can probably do drama, but going the other way is not always the case. So I mean, I wouldn't balk at it. I wouldn't cry foul or anything like that. It just isn't what I would have expected.
Yeah, my alter to that, if I had to cast him in something, would be the Tinkerer. I could see his character as the Tinkerer at that point.
We got him now.
I know we do have him. I'm just saying
that level of character. Sure.
Yes,
sure.
Someone who, because he always in The Office, he was the know-it-all or like to be the know-it-all and could do this whole, I know how to do certain things. I want people coming to me. I'm important. I'm the reason you have these weapons. I'm the reason you are who you are. Even though he wants to be the big name, he'll never be the big name because he's the man behind the curtain.
Yeah. He would have been, because I always wonder what they're going to do with the Tinker because he wasn't around after Spider-Man and they didn't get a huge name. So I feel like he's just kind of off to the side. Now, Fanboy Clay is messing with me in the chat saying John Krasinski is Green Goblin. Don't even it could, but like, I think there is a great role for John Krasinski somewhere, but Green Goblin, I want a really sinister person. And Krasinski, I don't buy as sinister yet.
For some reason, I'm thinking about Chameleon for Rainn Wilson.
Oh, that's not a bad choice either. I like that.
and he often comes paired with Craven, giving you the bigger villain.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. Right now, I have that in my head. So if I was going to cast him today, it would not be as Otto. It would be as Chameleon.
Trying to think if there's anybody else in like the Spider-Man. What about Uncle Ben? Everyone's always looking for Uncle Ben. Rainn Wilson's your good old Uncle Benny, you know.
No, he doesn't strike as
no,
the,
he doesn't.
you know, again, I can't remember the actor's name who was in the Raimi universe, but I do.
No.
Cliff Robinson.
Cliff Robinson, and I love Martin Sheen. And I think that was a good casting for the Andrew Garfield at that point. We don't have an Uncle Ben for Holland. We haven't seen our Uncle Ben. I don't know if we'll ever see our Uncle Ben.
We will.
This is unprompted, and you'll have to jump into my mind for a second. But still, one of the most
I don't want to do that. I'm a little scared.
You don't, but I'm going to take you. One of the most unintentional funny lines from The Amazing Spider-Man is so Uncle Ben gets killed, and then Andrew Garfield's he's looking for the killer, and he finds this guy in the alley, and he's like, "Are you?" He says, "Are you a bad person?" The guy's like backing up, and he's just like, "You like to beat on old men?" And like this criminal who's not the guy that killed Uncle Ben must be thinking like, "What? Why are you just asking me if I like to beat up old men?" Like he has no context for what Peter is looking for. And I just always think of Andrew Garfield. But yeah, that's my little rant.
Jeez.
You like to beat on old men?
I expected more food analogies, but all right.
No, not yet. Rhino. What about Rhino? Fanboy Clay says.
Well, we got Paul Giamatti. So there was that.
Boy. Okay, let's move on.
Can we put him in a rhino suit though, and not like a mech thing?
Yeah, I'm the Rhino, Spider-Man. Any other questions, or should I hit my fact or fictions now?
Nope. That was all I had. So yeah. So I don't think Greg. I think we're all sold on it. Like we're sold on the look, but probably not the character as a whole.
What Chris is saying is never send in a question again, Greg. You failed. That's what he's saying.
No, I think that's what you're saying at that point, because those words came out of your mouth, my friend.
Oh, I don't know. So last week's Fact or Fiction, it was Chris's turn. Dr. Doom will be the MCU's next Vance. We kind of talked about that today.
Yeah, we should have released that question before this news dropped, because that kind of skewed some of the results.
Yeah, that was Travis Snell's fault. Fiction 50, but still fiction 53%. In fact, 47. So I was surprised that the majority of people still think it's fiction, not going to happen. Doctor Strange Multiverse Madness will lead to a Disney Plus series exploring the other Earths. Fact 45%, fiction 55%. So again, two close ones. And then there was another one here. Where are you, what did Brent? What did you think as far as those last two? I find this other one as far as the multiverse one and the obviously you kind of talked about Doom. So what about the multiverse one?
Yeah, I definitely think we're going to be seeing more of the multiverse. Yes, absolutely. So I'm fact on that.
And then the last one of Chris's Punisher's MCU debut will come by a solo series or solo film, 40% fact, and then 60% fiction. So, and for a while it was 50-50. It was 50-50 for quite a while. So, Brent, where were you on that one?
Fiction. I team up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see them giving him a solo movie. I don't see them doing a TV show that's going to be too close to the Netflix show. So the only place I see it, if they use them at all, which honestly right now I wouldn't be surprised if they don't even use them. But if they did, I think it's got to be some sort of team up.
Yeah, I think I said something to that effect last week. It's just it's got the Deadpool problem. It's like I think Deadpool, you have an easier time working him into the MCU.
It's not the Deadpool problem. It's the real life problem of what is happening with the Punisher logo.
True.
It's just right now that logo is toxic. I think it's probably easiest if they don't even use it.
Brent, how do you feel about, because I've been suggesting this to Chris, that maybe they just almost completely bypass Frank Castle and just make him Cosmic Ghost Rider? I know that there's lots of things, but just set up that he was a vigilante and something like you can get a quick flashback of his old life. You could see the logo very quickly. You don't even have to. And then he's just Cosmic Ghost Rider. That was kind of my pitch.
I mean, okay, so I love the Cosmic Ghost Rider, but to really get the meaning of the Cosmic Ghost Rider, I think you got to know who Punisher is. I think you got to know who Ghost Rider is, and you got to know who Heralds of Galactus are.
Yeah,
I think it's tough.
I think enough people know the Frank Castle origin of families killed.
You could bypass the Punisher part.
Yeah, but I think you're right as far as Ghost Rider and Galactus, all this stuff. Like, I think those do need to be a bit more educated. So maybe it won't happen. But that's still just my theory of how they might do it. Be like, this is the Punisher, but it's not really the Punisher.
Cosmic Ghost Rider is fantastic. I would encourage anybody to go read it. Absolutely wonderful, ridiculous character.
Donny Cates at his finest.
So I had a theme, and I made all Ant-Man 3 related, my fact or fiction, to time in with the news. So why are you laughing, Chris? You don't like my theme?
I think it sounds like you came up with these yesterday. So thank goodness something came up.
No, I have two bankrolled. I have two bankrolled. I've been wanting to do things for a while, but yeah,
sure, Jan. Sure.
Yeah, whatever. Hank or Janet will suit up in Ant-Man 3, and not in a flashback.
Okay, so Hank will suit up as
Hank or Janet will suit up in Ant-Man 3. So they're in the action. They need to fight. Boom, they're Ant-Man, or boom, they're Wasp again.
I see Janet as suiting up against, and she's been in the quantum verse at that point. I think she'd be more adept to doing that at that point. I don't know when the last time Hank put on the Ant-Man suit. Not saying it's not possible. I think it's more Janet than Hank. So I guess I'm kind of fact on that.
I'm gonna go with fiction. The closest thing I see to them suiting up would be to explore the quantum realm. Like we saw in Ant-Man and the Wasp. I don't see it. So I'm gonna go with fiction on this one. I think they're gonna let the younger people get all the action from that standpoint.
That's not a bad point though. With you say just to explore the quantum realm, yeah.
I was fact, and now I'm fiction. Summer Hansen in the chat said fact. I'll go fact just because. I think if there's Kang, so maybe there's a chance where they need all people on deck. Maybe that's what I'm going with. That maybe you need a few more people to help out, and so I'll go fact now. But it's not. I'm pretty wavering all over the place. So here, Chris, this is a Ant-Man related, but it's not necessarily Ant-Man 3. So I hope you're happy with this one. Wasp will become a member of the Avengers.
So our new Wasp, Evangeline Lilly.
Yeah, not Michelle Pfeiffer White Gold. Yeah, new Raw. I hope.
I mean, the good and bad thing about I think it's a good thing that we've kind of Endgame kind of decimated our kind of original core team of the Avengers. It does lead it to that, and Wasp being a founding member of the Avengers team at that point, I think that would be a great idea. So yeah, fact.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go with fact on that one as well. And I guess if I really wanted to be snarky, I'd say Cap already called her an Avenger when he called all of them Avengers. So maybe
there we go.
Even if we ignore that, she will be an Avengers proper.
This is back to his nickname shenanigans right here. Oh, everybody's Avenger. So that means Kraglин's a Avenger now.
Kraglин's an Avenger. Howard the Duck's an
Yes,
Avenger.
Howard
they all got
Duck.
a key card to the tower. They all sleep in the same room and everything like that.
The same room. They could have different rooms. But...
that many members? They might run out of rooms.
Thanos destroyed. There is no tower, and they have no base anymore. So I don't know where they're sleeping.
That's Pepper's first initiative, is to build a huge tower in the shape of Tony Stark, and then there's all these rooms, and you just don't want the crotch room. Fanboy Clay said he thinks both of them will. Fact. I think they both could, but if I see one, I'm going fact. I think it's Wasp, just because I don't know. There's just for some reason, I think just because she has a bit more of a serious slant, but honestly, Paul Rudd worked great in both Civil War and Endgame, so I really would be down for all of them.
She is I love her character because and it really showed in Ant-Man and the Wasp was that she's got the smarts of her father, but not the hangups of her father.
Yeah.
At that point, like she sees past his weaknesses at that point. So I really do like how I think she was perfectly cast.
Oh, 100%. And then finally, this could be a little depressing, but will Hank Pym survive Ant-Man 3? I feel like the reason I asked this question is because I talked about earlier, I feel like the stakes are being raised and it's the end of a trilogy, and I feel like somebody's got to maybe go. There might be a big moment, and I don't think it's going to be Janet. I feel like it would be Hank. I feel like he has his wife back, and I guess I'm just revealing my hand. I'm fact because I feel like he has his wife back, so that's kind of that resolution of he can be happy for a few years with her in the off-screen time, and he's good with Hope too. So I feel like all his storylines are kind of culminating, and that would be a big one. Maybe he just gets a happy ending, but I feel like with Ant-Man 3, that could be something big that would propel the plot forward.
There may not be that much time for off-screen happiness because they got snaps, so they were gone for most of it. But no, I guess fact. I don't think he's gonna survive. I think that's a good A little more sad question, I guess, but yeah, I think he's gone.
Yeah,
I could see them going into like the quantum realm and just going off on their own, like just living there forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I could see them leaving that way, just going off on their own little second honeymoon, if you will.
Yeah, that's a good theory at that point. Either way, yeah, it's gonna be our our mentor, quote unquote mentor moment disappearing. I mean, it's Scott's gone through a lot. He's learned a lot. Yes, he's not the smartest in the sense of brains like Hank was, but he brings a different thing. He's learned different ways. I mean, heck, he started thinking about and understanding the quantum realm. So he's grown that he doesn't need to rely on Hank, and that would be a good more growth for that character. That he is the Ant-Man now.
and you'll get that scene where we all cry, where Hank's gonna say, "You make sure you take care of my daughter," and we're all gonna be like, "Oh my god!" Like there's all this stuff. I see it happening. Yeah. Summer Hansi same says agrees. Somebody's gonna die. It's probably Hank. I have an impromptu for fact or fiction. Very quick. Is the Paul Rudd, Michael Douglas slapping on their knees saying "Ants" the greatest promotional marketing material for any movie ever created? Because that's 100% fact for me.
No.
Wow.
The Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr. arguing over the donut that's been going around in response to it is far funnier.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
I agree.
Can't get enough ants. Okay, that's all that I have for fact or fiction. Let us know on Twitter. I'll try and get them out there earlier. It's been a crazy week. Been working at 3 a.m. Fun times.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Oh, COVID.
That's a little blame on everything. Begin.
People falling off ladders, not fun. So
it's not good.
Yeah.
You guys go crazy in Canada.
No, it's just people. I don't want to get into, but when you make a plan and then you change the plan of how we're going to disperse products 2 days later, and then you change it again 2 days later, and people go, "Why is there so many mix-ups? Why is there all this product going to the wrong places?" You go, "Well, maybe if you don't change the plan 4 times in a day, we'll get something done." But that's all. I digress. I don't follow where I work.
Brent and I both work in education. We have no idea what we're talking about. Every plan is very well thought out, and everything goes right the first time, right, Brent?
Yeah. I don't remember exactly what Captain Cold said on the Flash, but it's like, make the plan, execute the plan goes awry, throw away the plan, right?
Yep, sounds about right.
That's pretty much the story of my life right
now. Yeah, so we're gonna get a comic book club. Brent, are you gonna jump out of here?
Yeah, I probably should. I haven't had a chance to read them, so I'm not going to offer up much on these, but thank you guys for letting me join with this. I really appreciated it.
Oh,
yeah, always a great time.
Oh yeah, always good time. You're always welcome. Like I dropped the gift, the door is always open. Where can they find you and all your shows and what you're doing on the interwebs?
Squadcastmedia.com, Brent Prime on Twitter. Go to those places, you'll find me.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Brent. You have a good night, sir.
You as well.
So I'm going to throw to an ad right now, and then we're getting a Hawksbox. Unfortunately, these two were wrong about that promotional material. So I apologize for that. Ants is still the greatest video. But yeah, so you're going to get an ad right now, and then we're going to get a Hawksbox. And we're back. We're back.
I think what you mean by the greatest video is Mr. Paul Rudd is telling people to wear masks at that point. That is the greatest video.
It was pretty good. I'm not going to. Paul Rudd is just like, he's just the gift that keeps on giving. So
never ages.
We're in some big, like, that's what I forgot about Hawksbox is just like every week it gets bigger and bigger and the stakes rise. But we're starting with Powers X issue 3. What did you think?
We're still we start in the future. I know the last few issues we have not, and I didn't get a chance to look up why they reversed it at that point for this one part release order at that point. I mean, Hickman's writing them both, so I don't know what happened, but I thought it was interesting seeing the Apocalypse's plan of what was going on, because when I was doing the first read through, I was like, okay, where is this going? What is he trying to do? He's obviously, trying to get something about Nimrod and something about that, but what is his end game in it? And then that, I know I'm jumping way ahead, but before I do that, I like that we finally get confirmation of who his horsemen are at that point. I mean, we obviously knew it was Wolverine. We knew it was Zorn.
Could have been Daken.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been. We just knew it was a Wolverine at that point. I don't think it was Laura.
No.
Unfortunately.
No. She looks like she didn't make it. She was not around in that year 9 of Moira's life. So I feel like that's the reason it went though first, right? Was to reveal that House of X is taking place in this current, like the current timeline.
Yeah, and just seeing like, Wolverine is war, Zorn is death. Pestilence is one of our Chimera, which is a mix of Lordane and Emma Frost, which is an interesting combo, but wearing Magneto's suit in green.
Yeah, I love that suit. I love all the variants of Magneto's suits,
Yeah. And then we get Famine as a symbiote mutant of Krakoa and Cypher, who makes sense because as we've seen in the prior issues, Cypher is, very connected and pretty much has a very symbiotic relationship with Krakoa at that point. So that was kind of cool. I mean, I know we first all thought, a lot of us thought when we first read this, like, is that Groot? Because dang, it just didn't fit at that point. But, it was cool seeing that revelation of confirmation at that point. But, kind of going through and seeing the overarching plan. Yeah, they were right. We left off that saying this was going to be a suicide mission, and sure as fire was.
Zorn was so excited about that. I wrote down like, he's some good one-liners here. He's just like, finally, sweet annihilation. I've long waited for this day. Like, he is, like I said, I've said this every time I talk about Hawks. I know he's so far down the line in the MCU of X-Men characters that we get, but I hope one day me and my daughters will be sitting there watching like, that's Zorn. Magneto used to pretend he was that guy, but he's an actual mutant, and like give him this really convoluted like backstory of Zorn. I loved all that stuff, and I think this is where we talked about last week, where I do feel that I like it, but it gets, if you thought it was sci-fi before, it gets even more sci-fi, even with those plot like the breakdowns we've talked about in the middle of displaying like what the mother what is this called again, the mother Noid, or what's the main thing they call, like before Nimrod, there's like the mother, I almost keep saying box, but it's like you know what I'm talking about, though, as far as yeah. So they have all the descriptions of like how we got to Nimrod, and that's where it is just like, whoa, we're getting really sci-fi. It feels very much like Terminator when they're explaining like, this is what this can do, this is what this can do. But I think it was I think this is why I made the most sense for Power X go by, because you needed this to be the setup for what the main mission is. And that's where it's great parallels, because both of them are kind of suicide missions. Also, we'll get into House of X, but it's literally both teams have been told, hey, you're doing this, and the percentage of you dying is very high, but you have to do this or everyone will die. Every mutant will die. And it was good. I liked Nimrod's back and forth with, what is that? Oh, why am I forgetting that character's name? I'm forgetting everything. It's because the heat. She's shaved head. She's like robotic.
Oh, you're talking about the Omega Sentinel.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. So I liked that back and forth, because Nimrod at this point to me, like, he's still this like sentient being, but he hasn't had too much personality. But this gave him this personality of like, if you think he was this arrogant robot, like, he's very arrogant. He's
got very interesting personality for being a sentient robot.
Yeah, where I feel like the first few issues, he would be very like God complex, but it was very just stern and like, but where this was just like, whatever they're doing, it could be this, it could be that. I don't care. It's just like, oh, okay. So you really think you have a handle on all this stuff. And I thought it was a great twist to show that, like, because I always thought when I read this the first time that the House of X was the current timeline, and then Powers X was the future. It was, oh, this is what these people are going to go on this mission, and it's going to fail, and this is what the future is. But then it revealed, no, that's the 9th life before the 10th life. And that's that moment of poor Logan has to always kill somebody. Jean Grey, like, there's so many shots of him with his claws and just stabbing him through somebody. But I love that of, he gives her and he's like, you good to go? She's like, yeah, I have everything. Do it. This will be good for all of us. And he still doesn't want to, but.
And that's the revelation that it's Moira. Like we've known, the previous issues, we looked at the 10th life. So we knew there was a life where she teamed up with Apocalypse. We just didn't know it was this timeline at that point. And they actually finish off the timeline at that point. Because remember, what we've understood with Moira, she retains all her memories of each life at that point. So, and
that's like this is like, if you think about this in the same way, like with Terminator, when they have to go back to the future and they know what or go back to the past, they know their future is. Think about how depressing it is for these X-Men. Like, they try this, but also I feel that some of these X-Men are literally just hang on to be like, see how long you can survive, because how long you can survive gets more and more information. So you're literally, of course, you want you're literally surviving not to live a life, you're surviving just so you can die later on. It's a very strange dichotomy, but I love it's very sci-fi, but I love it, and I think they do a great job. And this one I feel is there's tons of terms and stuff they throw at you, but again, I think all that glossary helps, and it's to me the least confusing because you're starting to see all the pieces come together. Like, oh, okay, this is the ninth life, and what are they doing? Oh, which we'll get in House of X. Like, oh, okay, this is why this one's so important. So I think this one's probably my favorite issue so far of Powers.
Yeah. Powers of 10, like I said, it took. I think up until this point, it was kind of like, okay, there's a lot of headcanon you have to do because we don't have a lot of the connections yet. This is where we see the connection at that point. But yeah, I mean, we head into House of X at that point, and then we kind of see the mission. We know what the mission is, to take out the Mother Mold, and that's who
Mother Mold. There it is.
Okay, yeah. So we go from Mother Mold to Omega Sentinel to Nimrod at that point. But so Mother Molds are the ones, they make Master Molds, who Master Molds make Sentinels at that point. So, the organization, Orchid, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
This is their end game. This is that they are activating it. It's close to activation. Mother Mold is not ready yet. But the fact that they're this close, that's what they understand the future to be, is that if they don't stop this Mother Mold, this is a moment of Nimrod. And so that's why that's the mission. And Scott's assembled his team, and it's an interesting group of his X-Men that he's selected.
You have some classics there. Like, of course, you got Jean and you got Nightcrawler and Wolverine. So you have some touchstones, but yeah, Scott, to me, this is where it starts to get interesting for him, because he has that kind of complex conversation with Xavier and Magneto of, oh, we got to do this and blah, blah, blah. And then Xavier goes, oh, you're scared. He's like, well, of course I am. Shouldn't I be? And he's like, you can be scared, but you are the only one that can lead this team. And he talks about the fear of not being remembered. And
that Magneto's line to saying, if for you to die, you would have to be forgotten. And no one forgets a founder of a nation.
Exactly. So that's the thing where it's like they're putting a lot of weight on his shoulders, but if anyone can take it and not crumble, it's Scott Summers. So it's good seeing just a few, because I feel like so far he has been around, and he had that great moment in the first issue with the Fantastic Four. But other than that, he's been taking in a lot of information. This is now he's stepping up. He's been called the Bat. He's put his team together. And again, it is almost like a suicide mission where he tells the team, like, they talk about the trees, and those are the portals I can get them to and from Sokoa. And this is where they go, hey, there's not going to be a 2-point. It's just going from, like, we're leaving here and then it's closed off. We may survive, but we got to do it the old fashioned way. And they go, oh, why would you do that? And then I can't remember which character it says. It's like, it's not to prepare for winning, it's to prepare for failure. And that's the setup as far as the percentage of them pulling this off is very low, but even if they do, the percentage of pulling it off and surviving is almost nil. So that's why we got to protect everyone we can. And that's where Scott is, like, again, they're going on a suicide mission, much like they were in Powers of 10-3.
Yeah, they don't want them to get a hold of having any, even though, yes, the idea is mutants are the only ones who are allowed into Krakoa. They don't want them basically reverse engineering their own way into Krakoa.
Yes.
And that's the fear. So yeah, we either die standing here, or some of us are successful and get to return home, and so you got to love that little scene, a little interlude with we find out what's going on with Sabretooth standing trial in this basically this super of all super max prisons for the worst of super villains at that point. And Emma Frost walking in with the cuckoos. And talking about that we're gonna remember we use our mutant names, not our earthbound names or human names or whatever they called it.
And because they're the daughters, they even corrects her and says, like, at one point she says Victor, like, Mom, it's Sabretooth. She goes, right, it's Sabretooth. I loved it's just a small little scene, but I love Emma Frost is a very intriguing character that I hope we get in the MCU. I hope they don't stay away from her, because at times she's been very sexualized. I think if you look at this outfit, the way she acts, this is what I would picture her to be in the MCU, and I hope they do that. Sabretooth is a character that I feel like we've always got glimpses of him, but it would have been much better if he was in a better movie, but Leo Schreiber was as close as possible to pulling off a good Sabretooth. And that kind of very cocky, just brash, just doesn't care, beats to his own drum, like just is so nonchalant. That's what he pulled off at times in that movie, and that's what this Sabretooth is. And I like that. I like when Wolverine's stabbing him and he's just like, like that just tickles, kid. And just like he's just a dick. He's just like a bigger dick than Wolverine. Like that's the best way I can say it. It's just that's it. And it was good showing as well.
He has no code of morals like Wolverine does.
Exactly. Yeah, and he has a very sick personality as well. Like he's even more so into violence than Wolverine. Where Wolverine, he's not into violence, he just resorts to it too much. And I think with Sabretooth, Emma Frost, this was a great scene to establish how much power the mutants have. Right now, obviously, they're going on this mission that not the whole world knows about. But as far as the government, what they've been given, they have a lot more power than they ever have.
Yeah, and just basically saying, hey, the State Department's already signed off on this where he gets diplomatic immunity. We're going to deal with him. He's our people. You don't get to determine what we do with our people at that point.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, then we flash forward back to the mission and, they're in a Shi'ar, basically spaceship. And they're trying, they sense as the space station senses them, they say, well, we'll throw everything you got. It ain't going to make a dent on this thing at that point.
Even when they talk about launching the Sentinels, they're like, they're not going to get here in time.
Yeah, exactly. So, the plan is they got to basically uncouple Mother Mold and basically uncouple the head at that point, and it'll go into the sun and be destroyed. So they send Nightcrawler in to, locate this. And that's when, he gets discovered at that point, and the ship is trying to basically cut their way into it, and that's when one of the the quote unquote bad guys blows himself up and blows up the plane, and that's where we're left.
Yeah, a few things with that is, one, I liked that because I got the line right here from Aramis. He goes, I wish we had kids, and he's talking to obviously his wife or whatnot. And I think that's good because at the end of the day, you don't want to humanize them too much as far as because they're they're just like the Nazis for the X-Men, right? They're trying to eradicate all the X-Men, but it's showing in their point of view as far as some of these characters, they're not doing it because they want to kill these mutants. They're doing it because, like Emma Frost says, they're just scared for themselves. And I thought that was a good moment of humanizing these people instead of just a blow up big action. Instead of doing that, taking this moment to go, he's regretful to do this, but much like the X-Men, he feels he has to do this so his race can keep going forward. And I really like that. I love this because it reminded me, I don't think you've probably watched it, but Legion, I was a massive fan of that show. That's the show about.
Yeah, I didn't watch it. Now that FX is on Hulu, at that point, it's on my list to catch up on.
Oh yeah, give it a watch. It's super weird. If you don't like weird stuff, it's going to be a tough watch. But the pilot,
I'm on this network, so by definition.
Yeah. The pilot, the pilot to me is one of the best superhero pilots. But it's a minor spoiler because it's there are many things that happen. But there's one mutant there that has a similar power to Moira, and they have this great set piece where they got to get one character out of this room, and there's lots of swap that keeps coming in, and they keep doing it over and over and over. And I love it that this is very similar to that, and it feels almost like people when you play video games and you have the cheat codes, because they're going in there, they're like, how do they know about this? How do they know about this? But it's not cheat codes because these X-Men have prepared for literally generations of lifetimes with Moira's information, right? So it's each life she has died and got more information. So they're going in there with a clear
but
plan.
We haven't even gotten to the big revelation with Moira.
That
comes at the end, but I was just saying this is like you're saying, this is the most prepared and the most we are 5-10 moves ahead of you right now.
Yeah, and they have to be because Moira, she don't got much time left. She dies again, that could be it for her, right?
Yeah,
exactly. That's what she's been told, right? You only got so much time, so you got to make it count. So there's just such a intensity when they go in the situation, because even though they know everything that's going on, it's one wrong move can go awry, and obviously we see then this issue that maybe one wrong move happened. Who knows? We'll see when we get to 4. But I love that going in, like I said, kind of with the cheat codes in mind as far as they know, and just the characters reacting of just we'll do this. That's not. We'll do this. Nope, we can't. They're already there. It's well, what do we do? And they're breaking down someone must have talked, and they're no, they know everything. They have the schematics of this. How are they pulling this off? So it's just well done. It felt like a great action scene, like a Mission Impossible action scene or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the next couple of issues. My mind was blown originally, but I know what's coming up in the next few issues at that point. The big revelation is like, oh my gosh, this is where we're gonna jump the shark huge, and I totally buy it.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk to him. I won't spoil anything for people to read along for the first time, but it's going to be some good combo.
Yeah, definitely. So we are back to for the rest of the series. We are back to a normal reading order. Hawk, House of X first, and then Powers of 10. So we'll do issue 4 of both of those next week. But yeah, great episode. And again, thank you, Brent, for coming on. And always a good time at that point. And a lot of, I loved it that we in 48 hours we got a lot of news to add on what was going to be a lighter week.
Yeah, I think this is definitely, as far as big news goes in one episode, I think this is our biggest one yet, as far as just like so many topics that could have been main topics. And yeah, thank you to Brent. We had talked about it, and we were working out the time, and I was happy he could be on. It was great to get his opinion on some stuff.
And hey, thank you to our people in the chat who joined us for our very first live.
Oh yeah, no, I was gonna say we're gonna do, like you were gonna say, we're gonna do this more often, but this was a bit more impromptu because we just announced this on Sunday that we're happening this. So for the most time, if we can continue this, we'll probably always be doing the Tuesday at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. EST. So that's where you can kind of know. Star Wars Alliance is a bit more all over because they're bi-weekly, so they won't always be there. And then, like Greg said, next week they're trying to get for the Monday. But yeah, it was lots of fun. I think everyone that joined in and tuned in and add along, like you said, if you're watching this on the replay, listen to this next time, join in. And again, schedules can always change. That's why I always say it's not just to plug it. Follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Twitter, because it's genuinely, that's where you can get information, announcements, Patreon updates, stuff like that. So but yeah, I think this was a fun episode. It was great to have a bunch of news. So let's see next week when the well's all dried up and there's, we got to dip into some topics, but even then it'll be a good time. I always have a good time doing this.
Yep, definitely. So where can they find you, Travis?
At Travis B. Snail. You can find me there celebrating the victory of Taylor. I was going to say I was Travis the Conquer for this podcast, but I was worried Brent might go that way. So I went with Podcaster and Mischief. But next week.
And look at that point. You could have done it.
Oh, yeah, I know. So, I'll get my time machine. I'll get my Moira life and go back and give it. But no, you can find me there. This week, me and Dylan will be breaking down the PS5 reveal events happening when this drops. So like in the afternoon it'll be happening, so we're going to be covering that. After 9 is coming back. It's a show that we allow our patrons like Geekfers to call in and talk to them, and we just talk about, like, I'm talking about camping. I maybe had a criminal camping beside me in the Canadian long weekend, so it's a story of like just off the wall stuff. Taylor's talking about aliens if he can make it, because he's in a hospital. We don't know how he's doing, but yeah, just find us there. We got tons of stuff going on.
Yes, definitely. So you can also follow the show at Marvel A Podcast, and me personally at Chris Balga. You can email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. Follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Network. Feel free to tweet, email, provide feedback, ask questions, give your fact or fictions, answer, or give your opinions on our fact or fictions that Travis will post. I'll have to start coming up with mine. I don't know if I'll be as creative for a theme, but we'll see what news drops. See if I can.
If you go with the theme, I'm giving you so much crap next week.
I have gone with themes. I did a theme for X-Men. I just called you out for saying you thank God that theme brought itself to you at that point.
100%. 100%.
I did a whole X-Men thing. So yeah, I'm not above doing themes. So again, it's always a great time. Listeners live, listeners now, whenever you're listening to this, and thank you for listening. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers.